Love you, babe. Hello, Team FXG, and welcome to episode 1 of the David Dotan show. Apparently, I forgot my name. It's been a long time coming. You guys know we've been in the process of launching Gentleman Markets, and wow, to Sam and Sharif, I really appreciate you guys and the hard work that went into it. Okay, now we're using OBS. FXG Live is going to be slightly different. There's a couple camera angles. We have the front camera, we have the side camera, then we have screen share with me up top, screen share with me not up top, okay? And what the David Dotan show is, guys, is just, you're going to spend time with me, all right? As mentioned, for all of you members of the Gentleman community, the Forex Gentleman community, previous live sessions, we would just go right into it, and we would go through the analysis and all that good stuff. The David Dotan show is more you guys are going to hang out with me, follow me throughout my trading day, kind of how I analyze the markets and potentially place some entries together and whatnot. So we're gonna have some sort of structure, okay, and we're gonna have a lot of fun. All right. So what are we gonna start with? News. Okay, the first thing you want to do as a trader, someone who day trades, is you want to understand what's going on. Okay, when you wake up in the morning, you want to scour the market, scope, see what's happening. What's the fundamental direction? Okay, and once you have the fundamental direction, then we're looking for technicals. Okay, sorry if my mind's a bit off right now. I'm just making sure everything is good. I'm kind of have my mind in different places, making sure that everything is working and whatnot. I'm assuming it is, although I have gotten a couple messages from members saying that they cannot see, but others can. Okay. Now, there's something else that I'm going to be doing this time around, is I'm going to be using this. Okay, you guys know I've been using the smart board. I have this new thing called here that allows me to draw on the screen. However, this new thing that allows me to draw on the screen is actually acting extremely weird, which is unusual because I just spent hours practicing earlier today, making sure everything is good. But we're gonna do it normally in the meantime. But by tomorrow we'll have it good. Okay, okay, team. So let's roll. Enough with this. Let's get going here. Okay. First thing we're gonna do: scour the markets, check what's going on. I want to see what's happening with Bloomberg first.
In a relationship with Google than anybody else.
Hans, if I get one of your new iPhones, is Google search going to be the default?
Yes, that's part of it, and this is the new iPhone, by the way, which I have in my pocket. Yes, that's what we have right now on the phone, but we give optionality on everything we're doing. We're working with all the top brands that our customers want to have. That's how we work, and we have the best distribution, the best network, and an A brand. That's why we have all this partnership, and that's why we had our partnership with Apple last week. We have had our partnership with Amazon. We just announced also that we're working with Microsoft on the 5G mobile edge compute. So that's how this market is working, and that's our strategy. Our strategy is a network as a service, and we work with all these prime brands to give to our customers, and we monetize it.
I'd love to get your perspective, Hans, just though on what you think of the antitrust case against Google and sort of the animosity in Washington.
Pound rises most since March.
And how that may affect
November
you
Brexit deal
in the
delayed.
longer term and your relationship with Google, or the money that you
Or
wind up
deal
getting
eyed.
from Google to put their search on your phones. Can you talk me through how you're thinking about it?
No,
So they're saying the pound has
seen
strength?
Same news reporting that everybody else. I have no insight to what this DOJ is claiming.
We don't really see it on the charts here. Pound has a negative 0.4 strength.
Companies, and Google is one of them. So no, I have no comments on it.
Okay, unfortunately we're not going to let this go just yet, Hans. Do you have a revenue sharing agreement with Google to install Google search as the default option on the new phones that you send out?
we have the long relationship with Google when it comes to different type of application. Of course, Android is used on all the phones that is not the iPhone, so we have a commercial relationship with them, yes.
I understand you're not going to give us the hard number. I think just the reason why we're harping on it is because if we do get some pushback from DC, from the likes of Google, for example, and how they're able to distribute their search engine, that's going to affect your phones. It's going to affect how consumers react to it. I mean, there has to be some contingency plans or something.
Whatever decision comes out from a process like this, we will cope with that. We work with many different decisions in our industry over time, so it's not...
Okay, so what we've done here is we don't have it yet up on the gentleman markets, but the currency strength, okay? So we use, right now I'm using FX Blue to understand currency strength, okay? But we will have on the FXG, the gentleman's market, okay? We're no longer Forest Gentlemen, we're gentleman markets, okay? Gotta get used to that. What we're going to be doing on gentleman markets is we're having strength, okay? Right now I'm using FX Blue. They have a couple of the brokers to understand the strength, but we're going to be scouring all brokers. Right now through FX Blue, okay, we have negative 0.4 on the pound. So in terms of strength and in terms of Brexit, Bloomberg not necessarily getting it bang on there. Okay, we don't have much strength, okay? Right now we have the most strength on Bitcoin with positive 6.6, Swiss Franc positive 2.2, Yen positive 2.1, Euro positive 1.9. The weakest right now is Aussie and the weakest is USD, okay? And obviously New Zealand's following suit. And the reason why New Zealand follows suit the Kiwi is because it's correlated to the Australian economy, okay? Now, why is Bitcoin seeing a positive 6.6? The reason why Bitcoin is seeing a positive 6.6 is because what they're doing right now is they are, I think, what is it? Someone's, here, let's see. Someone's about to use Bitcoin, allow it as an option. Bitcoin strength right now. I think it was JP Morgan. Okay, Bitcoin is seeing some strength right now, and the reason why Bitcoin is seeing strength is because while Bitcoin is, I believe one of the major banks is going to start using them or allow transactions to happen. Now, team, I want to take you quickly. I want to take you here to the charts, okay, to gentleman markets, okay. Now, you'll be logging into gentleman markets today at platform.gentlemanmarkets.com. What is new compared to previous? Well, first off, things are live now. Up top here, what we see is that these are the live currency rates, okay? And we have things connected to trading views. So let's say, for example, you want to click on Euro USD, you click on Euro USD, it takes you to trading view, it takes you to the information here. So for example, charts, but you don't really need the charts. That's what you got trading view for. But here you see what you're seeing is technicals, you're seeing buy, sells, just some information, anything you want on the pair, okay, just gives you additional information. Okay, the channel is now up. We have the chat room, okay, team. Hello, team FXG, okay. This has made everything live now, all right. Of course, you can add pictures, you can attach your images, you can make things bold, italic, underline, okay, quote, whatever it is. Now, you guys know the signals page. My signals are on the left. Verified member signals are on the right. On the home page, it's changed a little bit, okay? So the traffic light system, you're not going to see all the signals. What you're going to see here is the signals that are getting close. So right now we don't have it because the verified members are transitioning to the platform. But what's happening is when a verified member or myself places a signal as red or yellow or green, right? Because we know that red means we're not close to entry. We know that yellow means that we're getting close. We know that green means we're in. So when a signal turns to yellow or green, it will be posted here. It automatically get pushed here. Because what ended up happening on the previous platform, even though we were on beta, is that people forgot to click on signals. Okay, they forgot that these are all the new signals by verified members. Okay, and at home, everybody thought that the home page was the case. It wasn't. Okay, people weren't clicking on signals, so I wanted to change that. on the homepage, the only signals that will be posted, even though right now they're red, will be any signals that are getting close to entry. So yellow or green lights. Okay, here is just my signals. You can view all the analysis just like you could, right? Previous ones, you have the video, okay? All that good stuff, okay? Then now also FXG Live. Okay, you'll be able to view all previous FXG lives. You're going to be able to see when the newest FXG live is. So, for example, today's FXG live, 11 a.m. Eastern to 2 p.m. Eastern. Okay. And then also, we have market hours is new on the homepage. All right, as you can see right now, New York is open, London is open, okay? London closes in 34 minutes, New York closes in 5 hours, 34 minutes. Some of you don't necessarily know the market hours, okay? So everything else is good. Market overview, economic calendar, okay? This is the tools that you guys will need, okay? So we have the economic calendar, what's coming up today in terms of FX, okay? We have market data, we have Forex rates, we have the heat map, okay? So this is the strength, this is the weakness, okay? However, the layout of how this will look will likely change, okay? One sec, I'm just going to reply to those. Let me just bring this down. Okay. All right. So, as you guys can see, there's been some changes now. Idea Hub. All right. As you guys know, this is AI. Idea Hub is over time, the more blogs that are posted, the more analysis that are posted, signals that are posted. What happens is we have an AI that takes all that information, relearns, and then posts articles that it thinks would be relevant. Okay, so here, as you guys know, you can do a quick view of that article before opening up the full article if you want to read it. All right, as for news, everything is the same. Any news posted by the FXG market research team or by any of our partners or verified members, okay, and the blogs as well. As you guys know, this is all written content. Okay, so that is currently alpha for gentleman markets. However, we're going to have consistent updates. This is just the beginning, okay? However, right now we're good enough to go alpha. We got everything we need. Verified members are now transitioning to this platform rather than FXG markets, okay? So we're going to get rolling. Thanks for holding there. Okay. Let's see what else is going on here. We're going to take it to Market Watch, now Wall Street Journal. Actually, you know what? I want to go markets dot. I want to check out earnings today. Okay, now we're getting into earnings season. All right. Okay, we got a bunch of earnings. Let's go large cap. Okay, we have about 3 pages of earnings leading Tesla, Verizon, Abbott Laboratories, Thermo Fisher Scientific, Nexen, blah, 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 blah. Okay, there's a lot of earnings coming out. Equifax. Okay, let's take it to Tesla for a sec. Okay. PE of 14.3 and earnings per share of 1.85. Okay. Moody's has it as a medium right now. Free flow. Okay, so you know what? I think what we're gonna do, I'm doing this for the first time with you all. Okay, this is the first episode of the David Dotan Show, not just FXG Live. However, I do want to make sure that we stick to our FX roots, okay? So what I'm going to do, okay, is we're going to start with FX, okay? Then we're going to take it to the equity side of things, because that's what you all are here for, okay? This is what I do. Now, I just want to mention here, as you all can see, this little board right here, this, just 2 hours ago, was allowing me to draw on from here onto the screen. It's acting finicky, something is off with it, okay? I'm not sure what's going on. For some reason, at the moment, it's not working. So for today, we're just going to use my mouse, and by tomorrow, I will have it figured out, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to start on Euro USD team. Let me just pull up the chart. There we go. All right, Euro USD. All right, what's the strength? Euro is currently a positive 1.9. All right, USD is currently a negative 4.4. So our fundamental direction is now to the upside, okay? When we did our previous analysis or live session early last week, what happened is that the USD was strong. Now we're seeing weakness in the USD. Why are we seeing weakness in the USD? We have elections coming up, okay? We have US-China trade tensions, okay? We have what's going on with the fact that the Fed can't come up with an agreement, okay? It got delayed again. They're expecting to come up with some sort of policy by the weekend, okay? So we're seeing weakness in the USD. Now, even though the euro is stronger than the USD, it's not extremely strong, okay? It's a positive 1.9, all right? So really what's happening right now is we're banking on the weakness of the US dollar. So what we're going to do right now is remove our potential entry to the downside. We'll talk about why that was invalid, and obviously it has to do with fundamentals, okay? So on the monthly time frame, team, what do we see here? Here's our monthly upper, okay, monthly lower zone, and here is respected lower lows, okay? Now, what do we see here? Push, exhaustion, continuational push, okay? Price was seeing buy pressure, buy support from previous low, okay? Then from its monthly time frame, we see a strong move to the upside, testing our weekly mid-range zone. We know that our weekly mid-range zone is a significant area of sell and buy pressure, okay? Just want to make sure that this is adjusted proper here, okay? Making sure weekly mid-range, perfect. Okay, as you can see, horizontal buy and sell sensitivity. All right, so here's the key. Price found buy pressure and buy support, technical and fundamentals, okay? As we saw price move to the upside, we see price break above our weekly mid-range zone. That means buy pressure is beating sell pressure to break above, okay? Now price is reaching not only an exhaustion in terms of after the push, there's an exhaustion. It's also seeing sell pressure from its higher time frame downtrend. Now, I just want to make sure this downtrend is properly placed, because as I was messing around with this, I was moving lines around. So we want to make sure it's all good. Yes, okay, all good. All right, so now let's take it to the weekly time frame. So what we said last week was very simple. We said, look, fundamental analysis is to the downside if price breaks this area of consolidation, because as you see here, after the push, we have consolidation. We said if price breaks consolidation, we have a nice move to the downside. We're waiting for a push, exhaustion, continuational push to area of buy pressure for a short-term quick in, quick out. Now this trade becomes invalid. Why is it invalid? Because our fundamental analysis is no longer to the downside. Our fundamental analysis is to the upside, okay? So as that is, when that's the case, we only look to swim with the current, not against it, okay? So what are we looking at here, team? Let's summarize. Let's make this simple. All right, we are in consolidation. Okay, we have the push breaking our weekly mid-range zone to the upside. God, I wish I could use this thing today. I'm a little bit frustrated, to be honest with you, because it's actually a very, very cool tool. I'll make sure that this is good for tomorrow, unless it's broken and I have to buy a new one and wait for one in. I don't think so, because I was working on it this morning. Okay, so anyways, frustrating, because I can draw on the screen. Anyways, push, okay, we know that after a push there's an exhaustion. Price was in relative consolidation. That's telling us that there's buy pressure, right? Now, price did make contact and we see him move back into consolidation range. Now, what we need to wait for is the push, breaking consolidation to the upside, exhaustion, and a continuational push. Because once we see price break consolidation, that confirms that there's more buy pressure. When we see exhaustion with price action and entry confirmation, we have a continuational move to our next area of significant sell pressure. So let's identify targets for this pair. All right, and for those of you watching this, I don't know what price action entry confirmation entry confirmation is. Okay, that just comes with time, with being with me here at the Forex Gentleman community. Okay, also on the new platform, I'm starting to do educational videos. Okay, so all these things will be linked. So for example, if I'm ever talking about in an analysis, for example, if I'm talking about wait for price action entry confirmation, that price action and entry confirmation would be a link, which then you could click and it would give you information on what that means. So if you don't understand what I'm actually saying, you could click on it, have a summary, potentially watch a video. That would be the next step. Okay, so we know that our final target is going to be our monthly upper zone. We know that that's our next area of significant sell pressure, so that's where our target's going to be. Okay, then we have mid-range. Now, why would our mid-range, why is it here? Now, first off, I just placed it here because mid-range is going to be around 50% of the way. Now it's time to optimize. We have to take it to historical data to make sure that our mid-range zone is proper. Now, we're looking for horizontal buy and sell pressure, correct? So I'm looking for horizontal buy and sell pressure, and boom, what do I find right here? Right? Why? Sell pressure, buy pressure. Okay, this is an area of buy and sell pressure. Okay, so we may have 3 targets here instead of 2. Why? Because I'm also liking where this current target is at the top of this pin. All right, as we can see, even though not a significant horizontal area of sensitivity, meaning historically this doesn't act like one, we do see a strong injection of sell pressure here, which is why I'm going to keep this target. So right now we'll have 3 target zones. Okay, we're going to have target zone 1, target zone 2, target zone 3. All right, boom. TP1, TP2, TP3. What's important to do when we're looking for SL, team? Okay, that's right. We're looking for the most amount of buy protection. So in the event that price comes against us, we're looking for buy protection to protect our stop loss, right? So can we see anything here? Yes, we have one level of buy protection. That would be our upper level of consolidation, right? If price comes against us, this is going to act as a level of buy support. But can we see anything on the lower time frame historically? Okay, so what I see here is horizontal area sensitivity. Now, this isn't a zone. We're not going to leave this zone here. But as you can see, this is buy pressure turning into sell pressure, turning into buy pressure, back into sell pressure, right? What I want to make sure is my SL is below that. Because the reason why I want to make sure my SL is below that, and it is, okay, so our SL is great, risk reward is great, okay, is because I wish I could have my SL below previous consolidation, but obviously risk reward is no longer optimal. As you can see, the distance to SL is less than a 1 to 2 risk reward, which means that even though I would love to have my SL below not only its lower level of consolidation, but also its higher time frame downtrend, I cannot have my SL there. And the reason why I cannot have my SL there is because we know of risk reward. So what we do is we go into the lower time frame, we find lower time frame sensitivity. So what do we have now? We have the best possible scenario. We have, or best case in terms of our risk reward, right? We have buy pressure from our upper consolidation, and we have buy pressure from lower time frame, horizontal buy and sell sensitivity. So on Euro USD, our SL and targets are currently placed where they should be, okay? And we're going to be looking for push, exhaustion, and price action entry confirmation for continuational push, okay, team? You will have a signal on this pair on gentleman markets, and of course, okay, there will be an update. So the signal will be posted on the signals, meaning it won't be on the home page, because I want to make sure you're all going to the signals. It won't be on the home page until it goes yellow or green. The new signals from today's analysis and for verified members will be only on the signals channel. Okay, now obviously here you see FXG Lives. That was because on our beta platform I had to post FXG Lives where the signals were. Now it won't be the case. FXG Lives will be posted here. Okay, so of course this is being recorded and you'll be able to rewatch this over here when needed. Okay, moving on from Euro USD, we will have an analysis on this pair later. Okay, we're gonna move on to Euro CAD. Okay. All right, our analysis has changed. Okay, obviously. So I'm gonna make sure that's moved. We went over this last week in terms of why that trade became invalid. Okay, team. So weekly time frame, Euro CAD. What are we looking at here? Here are our monthly zones. Okay, where is price trading in between these two monthly zones? So let's call this our monthly upper and monthly lower. Okay, now price is in relative consolidation. We know that our monthly upper is providing horizontal sell pressure. We know that our monthly lower is providing horizontal buy pressure. And we know that this is our weekly upper and our weekly lower. So we've identified area sensitivity, battleground, right, between buyers and sellers. Okay, so as we take it to the weekly time frame, what's going on here? Let's analyze. Okay, well, we have a push to the upside, exhaustion, push, exhaustion. What's next? Potential continuational push. Okay, now we have a negative 1.5 on the Canadian dollar, positive 1.9 on the euro. So fundamental direction is to the upside, technical entry is only to the upside. And because fundamental direction is to the upside, it makes sense to us that we have buy pressure here at completion of exhaustion. Okay, so in summary, the important thing is to simplify the complicated. Okay, so in summary, what do we have, team? We have a push, exhaustion, push, exhaustion. What's next? Continuational push fueled by technical and fundamental support at exhaustion. Okay, so let's take it down to the daily time frame, onto the daily. All right, so we can remove this. Okay, I used this at our previous live session to just essentially discuss area sensitivity, but we know our monthly upper zone is area of sell pressure, and we know our weekly is an area of buy pressure. So really what we're waiting for here is for price to make its way potentially to previous highs. So let's identify what's going on. Okay, well, actually, you know what, let's bring those zones back because it's better for visuals. All right, so we have lower zone. As you can see, horizontal buy pressure. Multiple times prices tried to break to the downside, failed to do so. Makes sense, right? Fundamentals are to the upside. Okay, here's our upper zone. Now, even though price is trading above this area of sensitivity, what do I say about lower time frame stop hunts? They are higher time frame pin bars, correct? So as we take it to, for example, the monthly time frame, this will, as you can see, show as respect, okay? So now, what do we know about this trade? Let's think about this here. Euro CAD. What do we know about this trade? I mean, in terms of direction and where we would be looking for our final target. Our final target would be where? At the highest level, meaning at our monthly zone, upper zone. Why? Because we know that our monthly zone is the most respected of all battlegrounds. Okay, it means that buy pressure is meeting sell pressure. The monthly is the most respected area of sensitivity, then followed by the weekly zones, then daily, then 4H, then 1H, and so forth. Okay, so as buy pressure is going to make its way up to its monthly, it's going to reach in a significant area of sell pressure, an army of sellers. So what we're really looking for here is to see, do we have enough space for an entry to the upside? And if we do, what would a proper entry look? Okay, so let's identify mid-range. All right, perfect. Now, why would this be mid-range area sensitivity? Okay, look here, buy pressure, sell pressure. Again, when I have my board here, when I'm able to draw, which will be tomorrow, I'll be able to draw on here. Okay, buy pressure, sell pressure, and so forth going across. So what's happening here is we know that this level is our significant area of battle between sell pressure and buy pressure. We know that this is an area of sell pressure, meaning buy pressure, but it's not as significant as our monthly zone, which means that if price is able to break our mid-range zone, it has free range to its monthly upper zone before then it reaches a significant area of sell sensitivity. Okay, so let's identify what a quick in, quick out would look like. Okay, so targets. Boom, boom, boom. All right, so what I do in this scenario, these aren't final targets. I'm just placing it Estimated. Okay, so we know our final target. This is a final target. We know that our final target is going to be at our monthly upper zone. Again, buy pressure just won't be able to break to the upside, even if fundamentals stay the same and they shift all the time. Okay, so we know that our final target will be monthly upper zone. Where is our mid-range going to be? So we start off 50% and we look for mid-range area sensitivity. Usually it's about 50% of the distance between your zones. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a line across. Boom. All right. Now, do you guys see this area of sensitivity? Buy pressure. Buy pressure turning into sell pressure. Sell pressure. Sell pressure. Okay. Sell pressure. This mid-range area is a area of sensitivity. So as we can see, our 4H, our mid-range, our TP1 is where it should be. Okay, so we leave it. And many times, as mentioned, you'll find it 50% of the way. Now, sometimes you'll have 3 targets. Sometimes we'll have TP1, TP2, TP3, because sometimes in between zones, we just don't have a mid-range. We have an upper and a lower. Okay, that's a little bit more advanced, and we'll talk about that another time for those of you who are not members or for those of you who are new to the team. Okay, so now we're looking for stop loss, we're looking for the most amount of buy protection, right? So we know that our mid-range area sensitivity in the event that price comes against us, right, is going to be a level of buy protection protecting our stop loss. But I want to look for another lower time frame level and still make sure that my risk reward is still optimal, right? Because with risk reward, it's very important that if I'm going to bet $1, I'm betting $1 to win a minimum of 2. And many times it's more than that. Okay, so what I'm doing is on the lower time frame, I'm just marking area of sensitivity. Okay, and I'm marking all of them because I'm looking for risk reward. So here I see lower time frame mid-range, as you can see across the board. Here I see more of a higher time frame area of sensitivity. So now what I'm going to do is see, can my SL be below both or just one? Okay, so this would be below 1. Okay, let's see, below 2. Is our RR still good? Let's see. Okay, so this would be a 1-to-1 risk reward, and then this would be a 1-to-2, which is not optimal because as you can see, it's not a 1-to-2. It's less than a 1-to-2. You have to have proper risk reward because with proper risk reward, okay, you have a situation where you can be right 50% of the time and still have a winning portfolio. Okay, as long as your risk reward is at least a 1-to-2. Okay, remember we talked about this. Casinos won't do this. Imagine going to the casino and having a game where you bet $1 to win 2 if you win. There's no such thing. There's no such thing because that means that even if you are right 50% of the time, you're still going to be up. So when you have proper RR, proper money management, proper analysis, identifying fundamental direction and getting in that direction, well, suddenly you become the casino, not the player, right? Okay, so as we can see, risk reward here is not optimal when it's below this area of sensitivity. Okay, it has to be below our upper level of lower time frame sensitivity. Now let's identify risk reward. Okay, 1-to-1, 1-to-2, 1-to-2.5, let's say. So even better, right? We're risking $1 to win 2.5. I'm risking $1,000 to win $2,500. Okay, that is the power of risk reward. Okay, and why it's necessary to identify proper stop loss. Okay, so we're waiting for the push. Team, exhaustion, price action, entry confirmation before continuation of push. You will get that analysis on Gentleman Markets and keep updated on the traffic light system. Okay, Euro Aussie next. All right, let's identify in terms of what's happening. Euro positive 1.9, Australian dollar negative 4.1. What's going on with the Australian dollar? Why is it so weak? Okay, well, it comes down to essentially economic and COVID spikes. Okay, North America is about 2 weeks behind on Europe and on Asia. Okay, when the virus came from China, okay, we saw spikes in China. Those spikes moved into Europe, then the UK, then into North America. We're slightly behind. Now, The reason why we're seeing weakness in the Australian dollar is because the spikes in the Asian in China, okay, and the Australian economy, and not only that, we see spikes in Australia as well and in New Zealand, but the Australian economy is strongly correlated to China, which is their number one trade partner, which is why we're seeing weakness in the Australian dollar because of fear of economic outlook, right? Liquidity is starting to, investors are starting to take money out of the Australian dollar, meaning liquidating from the Aussie, and then they are putting money in to other investments, okay? So that's the key here with the Aussie. We have weakness and strength, okay? So when there's strength in the euro and weakness in the Aussie, our fundamental direction is where? That's right, to the upside, which means we're only looking for an entry to the upside. So here we are on the monthly time frame, okay? Monthly zones. Here we have from 2013, a strong uptrend, okay? Now, what we need to pay attention to is where price is right now. What's going on right now? Well, we saw a strong spike to the upside. This was strength in the euro against the Aussie as the virus was spreading in China, okay? Then as the virus started to come across the board and China started to the Chinese economy started to regulate, and then the North American economy started to get the virus, we saw a ton of weakness in the euro. Okay, so here's a push. All right. So we know that this is a push. Why? Because buy pressure broke a significant area of sell pressure. What's after a push to the upside? That's right, an exhaustion to the downside. Exhaustion became a push back to the downside because sell pressure rebroke buy pressure back to the downside. Now this is why winners wait for price action and entry confirmation at completion of exhaustion, right? So what we see here is weakness in the euro, significant strength in the Aussie, and price made a push back to the downside and also broke our weekly mid-range zone without making much of an impulse move, showing us that there's a tremendous amount, or at the time there was a tremendous amount of strength in the Australian dollar. Okay, now price then started to trade below our weekly mid-range zone and above our monthly lower, right? So what does that mean when there's horizontal sell pressure, okay, and horizontal buy pressure? All right, that means that there's consolidation. This is an area of battle between buyers and sellers. And what our analysis was, which stays the same because fundamentals have stayed the same, okay, our analysis was an entry to the upside. Why? Because our fundamentals are to the upside. And we know that price buy pressure is testing our weekly mid-range zone. So we can safely assume if fundamentals are to the upside, if technicals break our weekly mid-range zone to the upside, and we see a push exhaustion cycle, the proper one with price action entry confirmation, we have a high probability entry to the upside. Okay, so let's take it to the daily time frame for a closer look. All right, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to move the charts over so we can see the candles a little bit better. All right. So when buy pressure team was making its way to its weekly mid-range zone, okay, what was happening? Buy pressure, it's like Braveheart, right? It's like this type of thing where, you know, I guess that's not working either. Episode 1, we'll get better. Okay, so I have GIFs set up on my stream deck, like, you know, like funny GIFs, but apparently that's not opening up either. Let's see if these do though. Maybe only, I see. It's only when I do it on this one. Apparently not. Oh, that one opened. Anyways, we'll figure this out. Sorry to cut the flow. Okay, so this is important. This move right here. All right, that's a push. You guys know that. This is the significance, okay, of understanding fundamental direction. Because think about this. When price made its way to its weekly mid-range zone, think about how many sell orders and sell limit orders have been placed. But that's by people who don't understand fundamental direction. What we need to wait for is the push, which is happening right now. Buy pressure is beating sell pressure. What's after a push to the upside? Exhaustion to the downside, where then we're looking for a continuational push. Okay, so what we're seeing right now, team, is that the push has completed and exhaustion is about to begin. Now, I just want to make sure our weekly mid-range zone is exactly where it should be. As mentioned, I've been practicing on this thing, and because of that, I did move around a few zones. Okay, so just bring it across the board, making sure it's all good, all good, all good. Okay, we're good. All right, so very simple, team. Here's push. We're waiting for exhaustion, price action, and entry confirmation before then a continuational push. Again, the signal will be placed on the signals channel on the left side here, and then once it's ready for entry, okay, it will be the traffic light. It will show up as a yellow or green here with the traffic light system. Okay, and as you all can see, the London session is closing in 4 minutes. Okay, New York session is closing in 5 hours and 4 minutes. Okay. From Euro Aussie, let's do Euro Swiss Franc. All right, Euro positive 1.9, Swiss Franc positive 2.2. So what does that mean? Fundamental direction is relatively flat, right? We don't have a significant direction to one side or another. Okay, when both pairs are strong, that means there's two good fighters. What you're looking for is one good fighter versus one bad fighter. So think about this. Let's say you are betting on boxing. Okay, what's beautiful about what we're doing is the casino doesn't set the books. And what do I mean by that? Let's say Floyd Mayweather, okay, one of the best fighters in the world, was fighting me or Joe Schmo. Me is not a good example because I might actually win if I go into a rage mode, and I would be dirty as hell. But let's just say your neighbor, okay? Floyd Mayweather is fighting your neighbor. It's pretty safe to say that Floyd Mayweather is the stronger fighter and your neighbor is the weaker fighter. So when we're trading the markets, we want to bet to the upside because fundamentals, aka our expectation and market expectation, is that Floyd Mayweather is going to beat the bad fighter. So in this case, what would that be? That would be the strongest currency pair, so Swiss franc right now at a positive 2.2, versus the weakest currency pair, which is USD at a negative 4.4. Swiss franc is Floyd Mayweather, USD is a weak fighter. So that means that what we're looking for is those shifts. Now, what happens is let's say there's an actual fight. So, for example, Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor, right? That was an actual fight. Floyd Mayweather won. But let's say you want to bet on that fight. The books, the casino, understands who is the most favorable and then how much you need to bet and what the risk reward of that would be. So, for example, if Floyd Mayweather is fighting a shitty fighter, the casinos will have it that you need to bet at a risk reward of, let's say, 3-1, meaning that for every dollar I bet, I'm only winning 30 cents because the odds are heavily favored in Floyd Mayweather's corner, right? So the casino would be like, why would I give you a 1-to-1 risk reward if we are almost certain that Floyd Mayweather will win? The books, the institutions that make all these, they make money when the person who's supposed to win or the team who's supposed to win doesn't. But if the risk reward was 1-to-1, then they wouldn't win, right? So what's beautiful about trading is we can identify who the strongest boxer is, who the weakest boxer is, and make bets on that at a risk reward of more than a 1-to-1. How about a 1-to-3? How about a 1-to-4? Minimum 1-to-2. You get where I'm going? So this is why I love trading, because I can bet on Floyd Mayweather versus your neighbor and still have a 1-to-3 risk reward, meaning when I bet $100, I win $300. In the casinos, it's not like that. If Floyd Mayweather was to fight a shitty boxer, you would have to bet $100 to win $30, right? That's how it works. That's why I love trading. Okay, hopefully that made sense. So, Euro Swiss franc. Euro is a positive 1.9. Swiss franc is a positive 2.2. So we have two strong fighters. Our fundamental direction is not very clear. That's what I'm trying to get at. All right, so monthly time frame. Here we have lower lows. This is our monthly downtrend, okay? What do we see here? Monthly upper, monthly lower. Here's our mid-range, okay? So we see lower lows, which means downtrend, to our weekly lower zone. Okay, now we're seeing buy pressure from our weekly lower zone. This was fundamentally caused. Okay, if fundamentals, if euro was seeing continuous tanking like it was in May, all right, we would have saw price break and move to the downside. However, we did not see that. That's because fundamentals have shifted and now we're seeing some strength. Okay, so now let's take it to the weekly time frame. Now, what's important here on the weekly time frame? As mentioned, price had all the reason to break to the downside as fundamentals shifted, buy pressure and technical support pushed price back to the upside. Here's a push, here's exhaustion, what's next? Continuational push. Now, the reason why I'm not interested in Euro Swiss Franc for an entry is very, very clear to me, okay? First off, take a look at the amount of pin bars we have here, all right? We have multiple pin bars. So even when Euro was significantly strong against the Swiss franc, it was failing to break its daily mid-range zone. Buy pressure failed to break sell pressure. Now, we're seeing price make its way back to the downside. Why is that? Because the Swiss franc is at a 2.2 and the Euro is at a 1.9, which means that the strength is with the Swiss franc against the Euro. A stronger boxer versus a weaker boxer. However, not much stronger, right? So, I have to share my screen, okay? My bad. Here is our, I'm not sure if I shared my screen there. So we have lower lows, price is seeing buy pressure off its weekly mid-range zone, off its weekly lower zone, and price move back to the upside. Now, as we can see, is that we're seeing horizontal sell pressure, okay? Multiple pin bars at our daily mid-range zone, all right? Telling us what I just said. Now, as mentioned, price is moving to the downside. That's because Swiss franc is stronger than the euro. All right, now fundamentals are shifting. Tomorrow the euro is stronger than the Swiss franc, and after tomorrow the Swiss franc is stronger than the euro. So when that happens, what we look for is technicals, and technicals are not beautiful on this pair. They're just not. Price was in consolidation. Now we're seeing break to the downside because of fundamentals, but we're seeing price likely move back to the upside. So here's a push, right? All right, now we're going to see price move back to the upside because euro actually didn't have strength, or the Swiss franc didn't have that much strength to continue for continuational push. So we're likely going to see a stop hunt, higher time frame pin bar, bringing it back to consolidation range. Euro Swiss franc, I'm not interested. And the reason why I'm not interested, again, in summary team, is because I need direction. I need some fundamental direction. All right? Now, we're talking about this trade here, okay. Euro Yen. Now, by the way, why is Swiss franc seeing strength? Swiss franc and also yen. Swiss franc positive 2.2 and the yen is a positive 2.1. The reason why they are seeing strength is because they are safe haven status. Okay, in normal circumstances, it would be the Swiss franc, yen, and USD. Actually, USD, Swiss franc, and yen in that order of safe haven status strength. But the problem is, as we know, is that the USD is not a safe haven anymore, or at least not in the meantime. Why? Because they can't control the virus, US-China tensions, because liquidity is leaving overpriced equities, moving into overseas, more affordable assets. Okay, there's a lot of reasons why the USD is not acting as a safe haven. However, Swiss franc and the yen still are, Swiss franc being the most. So as virus cases continue to climb, as we get into a situation such as winter time where immune systems start to drop and people are expecting even more cases to increase, as we're starting to see that equities are overpriced and buyers are starting to sell their positions, liquidate so that they can rebuy, what we see is that, well, the USD is not acting as a safe haven. Okay, so euro yen, what are we seeing? Okay, positive 1.9 on the euro, positive 2.1 on the yen. So what does that mean? We don't really have a clear fundamental direction. So technicals have to give us something so clear, so precise for us to enter. Okay, because right now with the way things are moving, you are not going to be a profitable trader if you do not enter in the same direction as fundamental bias. And sometimes that is literally the key. I cannot tell you how many people would be profitable traders if they just gave a little bit shit in terms of the fundamental direction. Okay? A lot of you, and I see this with Team FXG, a lot of you are great technical analysis traders, but you just don't understand fundamental direction. Okay, now that's not to bash you, that comes with time. Just like anything, it comes with time. Just like riding a bike without training wheels, it comes with time. Okay, so Euro Yen, fundamental direction not clear. So here we have lower lows, here we have higher highs. That's a squeeze. Okay, what do we see here? Monthly upper, monthly lower, weekly mid-range. And here's the squeeze. So price, when price gets squeezed, so like a wedge, it has to break either to the upside or to the downside. So sell pressure essentially meets buy pressure, and price has to choose. Okay, so price chose to break to the downside. So what do we have here? We have the push, we had exhaustion, continuational push. What's important about continuational push is that price failed to break previous low. Okay, now, price had all the fundamental reasons to break previous low, but there's definitely buy protection also due to our monthly lower zone. There was also fundamental support, okay? Now, as fundamental shifted, we see price move back to the upside. Excuse me. Okay, now, here's our weekly mid-range zone, here's our monthly lower zone, and here's what? That's right. What's in between the weekly and the monthly are daily. Okay, so what's happening is we saw push, we saw exhaustion, and we were waiting for a continuational push. So let's identify. So here's push, exhaustion, waiting for continuational push. When we take it to the daily time frame, what we did was we identified area sensitivity. Now I want to talk about why this trade became invalid. Okay, so just keep this in mind, right? We had an entry to the upside. I'm just going to remove this. So as fundamentals were clear last week to the upside, we had an entry to the upside, and want to talk about why this became invalid, right? So in terms of a re-entry, okay, some of us we know are likely going to read TP2 or TP1 at the top of consolidation and still stay in this trade. But I'm specifically talking to those of you who did not find entry down below, okay, and also we're looking for a re-entry. Okay, so what we saw here was price made a push to the upside, all right? Last week, fundamentals were stronger on the euro against the yen. So we said our fundamental direction is to the upside. We're looking for technical entries to the upside. Here's a push. Here's exhaustion, and we're looking for a continuational move. Okay? Now, what we see, though, is that price broke back to the downside, all right? What is this? First off, let's make this clear, okay? I'm gonna figure out how to include the chat integration here into OBS. Okay, I'm new with this platform, but so I can ask you guys questions. But in your head, okay, I'm gonna say this right now. What is this? And remember, don't necessarily pay attention to every single movement. You have to think, what is this also on the higher time frame, right? What is that move on the higher time frame? That is an exhaustion, right? Because here's the push, here's exhaustion, right? So on the lower time frame, don't let that confuse you. Here's a significantly strong exhaustion. What do we require when we see a significantly strong exhaustion? Double confirmation. We require an impulse move. That's take profits, stop losses, buy limit orders, market reaction to area sensitivity, a retest, and then a re-injection of buy pressure for then what would be a continuational move to the upside. Okay, so did we see that? No, we hardly even saw an impulse move. We did see some buy pressure. Price re-broke back to the downside. Now, as soon as you see price re-break back to the downside with this candle right here, boom, your re-injection long becomes invalid. Okay, so on this pair right now, are we looking long or short if you're not already in the trade? No. Why? Because fundamentals are not clear. Because fundamentals are flat. Okay, we're moving on from Euro Yen onto Euro Kiwi. All right. Euro positive 1.9, Kiwi negative 1.6. Okay, so now we have a strong fighter versus a relatively weak fighter. Although Kiwi being at a negative 1.6 isn't significantly strong. It's not like it's at a negative 4 or negative 4.4 or what like the USD is. Okay, so however, our fundamental direction is clearly to the upside right now. All right, so here's our monthly upper, monthly mid, monthly lower. What would these zones be then if this is our monthly mid and monthly lower? Here's our weekly mid-range zone. What's in between our weekly and our daily and our monthly? That's right, our daily mid-range zone. So what this is just area of buy and sell sensitivity. For those of you who are new here to the gentleman markets, as you can see, I do not use indicators, okay? Indicators require data points. And what is data? Historical, okay? There is no data unless it's retrieved from something historical. I do not need MACD to tell me when something is overbought or oversold, or RSI, okay? I do not need pivot points to tell me that either. I do not need EMAs, exponential moving averages, to tell me when there's an uptrend or a downtrend. Okay, what I need is to know where the fuck is our monthly zones, our weekly zones, and also our daily and 4-hour zones, because then I know where buy pressure and sell pressure is meeting, and once it moves to one side or the other with proper push and exhaustion, then I know who has control. Very simple, right? So without even doing anything here on the monthly time frame, what do we see here? Well, it looks to us like prices in consolidation. Well, on the monthly time frame, first thing I know is that, well, there's going to be a shit ton of sell pressure here. And then on the daily mid-range zone, obviously there's buy pressure here. Not as strong as the sell pressure from our monthly though. So let's take it to the weekly. Okay, weekly time frame. Again, as we can see, buy pressure is testing our monthly, failing to break to the upside. Now to the daily. So my question to you, all right, and take a moment here to respond. My question to you here would be, why are we not looking for an entry to the upside? Take a second to think about that. Okay. High quality H2O. All right. So the reason why we are not looking to the upside is because we need room to play. Even though fundamentals are to the upside, we have to understand that we're going to see sell pressure, technical sell pressure from our monthly upper zone. If price action was down here, okay, let's say assuming price action was down here, we would have all this range until meeting sell pressure at our monthly upper zone. But because sell pressure is already at contact with our monthly upper zone, I am not looking for an entry to the upside, even though fundamentals are to the upside, because there's just going to be an overwhelming amount of technical sell pressure here. There is no room to go. And we're not looking to the downside. Why? Because fundamentals are not to the downside. I don't know. Have any of you swam in a river and tried to swim uptide? Any of you get caught in a whirlpool in the ocean and saw the struggle to swim away from it? Guys, what I'm trying to say is this. Extremely important to trade with the fundamental direction. Fundamental direction is to the upside. However, price is already reaching a significant area of sell pressure, meaning that what would we require for an entry would be that price actually breaks this area to the upside, meaning that price needs to break our monthly zone to the upside with the push, where then we wait for exhaustion, price action, and entry confirmation for a continuational push. Now, this will take some time. But before, we're definitely not looking for an entry to the downside unless, what? Fundamental shift. You got it. Okay? Well done. Okay, on to the Aussies now. All right. Okay, Australian dollar we know, negative 4.1. Weak fighter, weak, right? So we have a weak fighter versus the Canadian dollar, which is at a negative 1.5. So a stronger fighter. So that means our fundamental direction is to the downside, because technically the Canadian dollar should beat the Australian dollar. Fundamental directions to the downside, which means what? Technical entries to the downside. Now, before we go short here in terms of, or look short here in terms of the strength in Canadian dollar, it's important to understand that if we do find a short, it's more due to the weakness in the Australian dollar than the strength in the Canadian dollar. And that's important because fundamentals can shift. Why is the Canadian dollar why should we not be betting in terms of the Canadian dollar being super strong? Maybe take a moment to think about that. Okay, the reason why is because the Canadian dollar is tied to the price of crude. Okay, when we have virus cases spike, when there's lockdowns, the demand for crude goes down. Supply, demand. Supply goes up, demand goes down. What happens to price? It drops, and vice versa. When supply is low, demand's high, price goes up. Okay, all right, that's how pricing works. Supply, demand, right? So as supply goes up, demand goes low. All right, the price goes down, which means that the Canadian dollar, which is significantly correlated to crude, as we are a net exporter of crude by far, okay, will follow. Which means that we have to expect that if we are going to go short on Aussie CAD, it can't be a long-term time frame short, because we will see spikes, and we also have to be lower risk, because we can and should expect that the Canadian dollar will see continued weakness as the virus starts to come through its second spike. Okay, so on the monthly time frame, what do we see here? All right, let's simplify. Price has been trading up top here, but we saw a strong push to the downside. Okay, and April price met its monthly lower zone. Okay, as fundamentals shifted, as the Australian dollar started to gain strength, it got fundamental and technical support back to the upside. Now, what are we looking at here in terms of zones, right? Here's our monthly upper, monthly mid, monthly lower. What's in between our monthly zones? Our weekly, right? So in this scenario, we don't just have a weekly mid-range zone. In this scenario, we have a weekly upper and weekly lower. And the reason why is because we took it historically and saw horizontal buy and sell sensitivity. Okay, so here's that push, right? Why is this a push? Buy pressure meeting sell pressure at our monthly. Buy pressure beat the sell pressure. What's after push to the upside? Exhaustion to the downside. So what flow should be saying is, well, what's next is a continuational push. But we know that price doesn't just move to flow anymore, because fundamentals take the cake, not technicals, right? So what are we looking at here? Okay, price made a push to the upside. Okay, made a push reaching horizontal area of sell pressure. This is our area of sell pressure, and it makes sense. This is identified at our weekly upper zone, right? So price is now coming back for exhaustion. Now, what's important to understand is that we are seeing some buy pressure here. This isn't fundamentally caused. This buy pressure is expected. Why? Because it's reaching our monthly mid-range zone. Remember, I said when there's a significant exhaustion, we require double confirmation. And the reason why we require double confirmation is because that there's impulse moves at area sensitivity. So even though fundamentals are to the downside, of course we see a bullish candle here. Why? Take profits, stop losses, buy limit orders. This is market reaction to area sensitivity. So what I'm expecting is that price is going to end up shifting back to the downside. Now, because fundamentals are now to the downside, okay, is this trade valid? Of course not. Okay, what we were waiting for when fundamentals were to the upside was price to break weekly zone with the push, exhaustion, fundamentals shifted to the downside, so this becomes invalid. Okay, we did not get an entry on this pair. All good. All right. So, Aussie CAD. Do we find an entry? Can we see an entry anywhere? For me, I would only want to look to the upside. And why is that? Well, the reason why I only want to look to the upside is for multiple reasons. Okay. First off, I'm not confident in the strength in the Canadian dollar. Okay. For us to look to the downside, it would only be based on the weakness in the Australian dollar, not because of the strength in the Canadian dollar. Additionally, I see continued weakness in the future of the Canadian dollar. Okay, and eventually, as mentioned, the Australian dollars Aussie and Europe and China are 2 weeks ahead of everybody else. As things come here to North America, we're going to see strength back into the Australian dollar. For me, it's quite simple, team. Okay, I'm requiring this. I'm requiring the push. Okay, I'm requiring exhaustion. And I'm requiring a continuational push. Now, price will have a hard time seeing price action and entry confirmation at completion of exhaustion if fundamentals are still to the downside. Okay, so if fundamentals are to the downside, what is going to happen here? Two things. Price will either find sell support at its weekly and come back, right? So that would just be the impulse with the double confirmation. Or if price ends up breaking its weekly lower zone to the upside somehow, and fundamentals don't change, we're going to see a stop hunt, and price will make its way back to the downside. And a lower time frame stop hunt is a higher time frame what? That's right, pin bar. Okay. Aussie CAD, not interested to the downside, only interested to the upside, and fundamentals are not to the upside, so we're moving on. Aussie USD. Okay, team, I'm just going to do a quick washroom, okay? I'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Thank you for that. Okay. All right. Aussie USD is going to be our next pair. Okay, so Aussie negative 4.1, USD negative 4.4. What does that mean in terms of fundamental direction? It's flat, right? We don't have a clear direction. So that's something to keep in mind as we take it down and do our analysis. Okay, so here's our monthly upper, monthly mid, and monthly lower zone, right? So what are we seeing here? In terms of flow, here's a higher time frame push, exhaustion, continuational push. Now, Aussie had all the reason to just collapse, okay? Here what we see, okay, let me make sense of this. This move to the downside was very, very important. Why? Because as the virus started to spread in China, we saw a massive decline in the strength in the Australian dollar and a huge incline in the strength of the US dollar, because when the virus first came out, the US dollar was still acting as a safe haven status. So the fact that price shifted, okay, why do we see buy pressure entering here? Because government support, institutional support, okay? Countries hold debt, okay? For those of you who don't know, it is a strategic move for countries to issue debt in many ways, and like bonds, right? And the reason why is because it gives other countries vested interest, right? So for example, if you're gonna loan Joe Schmo money, you want to make sure Joe Schmo still has money so he can pay you back. Too much debt is not good. Too little debt is also not good. But debt in general is actually a strategic play. Okay, so on to the monthly time frame. Price moved back to the upside as things start to shift. Also, the economy started to get better in terms of the strength in the Australian dollar. We saw a move back to the upside. So this is a strong push. Buy pressure beats sell pressure at its monthly lower zone, beats sell pressure at its weekly lower zone, made its way to its daily mid-range zone. Finally saw some weakness in the Australian dollar and came back for exhaustion. So in summary, we have a push, exhaustion, okay? Fundamental direction flat. We don't have one right now, okay? So what we saw here was exhaustion. What we said was, look, we're looking for an entry to the upside, all right? We have exhaustion, we're looking for double confirmation. So let's take it to the daily for a closer look, all right? So this right here is what? That's a significantly strong exhaustion. What do we require when we see significantly strong exhaustion? Double confirmation. So this move to the upside here is what? That's an impulse move. Market reaction, stop losses, buy limit orders. Okay? What's after a push to the upside? That's right, an exhaustion to the downside. Okay? And what we require is double confirmation. Okay, let me just make this clear. When price is making its way to the downside like this tells us that there's a tremendous amount of sell pressure. This impulse move does not tell us that there's a change in direction. Okay, a change in direction only comes with the second injection of buy pressure. This buy pressure right here, as mentioned, is market reaction. Anybody who was short had take profit here. Anybody who was long had stop losses here. Anybody who had a buy limit order had a buy limit at its weekly mid range. Okay, so impulse move, but does not confirm change in direction. A confirmation of change in direction is when price retests previous low or area of sensitivity and sees a second injection of buy pressure, which is what we're seeing right now. And why would I still be interested in an entry to the upside? Well, because fundamental direction is flat, so technicals still take the cake. And if I see proper double confirmation, then why not enter to the upside? Okay, so impulse, double confirmation. Now, we're looking for mid-range area sensitivity to identify potential entry, okay? So let's think about this. Here's our monthly. Here's our weekly. What's in between? Our 4H. So let's identify all our 4-hour zones. Okay, so this I'm just gonna make this into horizontal. Okay, so what I'm doing right now, because we're looking for entry, okay, is I'm adding all area sensitivity. Okay, so very simple here, team. This is double confirmation. This is that second injection of buy pressure. We've identified 4H zones just across the board, any horizontal area sensitivity. Because we're looking for an entry now, it's important to do that, okay? It's important to identify all area sensitivity. So what makes sense? All right, now I just want to clarify so I'm not confusing. Again, zones are an area of battle between buyers and sellers, right? So that means that there's that different time frame zones have different respect. Monthly zone has a lot more buy and sell pressure than, for example, a 1 hour zone. So the monthly zone is the strongest, the weekly, then the daily, then the 4H, okay, so forth. So we know that the 4 hour zone is weaker than the 1 hour zone, okay? So when we take it to the charts, we know that this zone is weaker than what would be our daily zone. But we're adding these zones to identify proper entry. So we know that buy pressure right now, okay, is reaching this area of sell pressure at our 4H zone. So that means what we're waiting for is price to break with the push, okay? We then wait for exhaustion and price action and entry confirmation before then a continuational move to the upside. Of course, our SL will adjust slightly. Obviously, our entry will be up here, so our SL is going to adjust. All that will be on the David Signals channel. This will be a signal on the David Signal channel. So I want to make sure, again, make sure you go to the signals. It's going to be on your left side. Once the trade becomes close or valid for entry, it will be on the traffic light signal as either a yellow or a green. And again, you can view the signal from the traffic light system to make sure that all is good, okay? Now, moving on from Aussie USD, we're looking to the upside, okay? Aussie Pound. All right. Australian dollar 4.1, negative 4.1. Pound, positive negative 0.4, which means that we are looking for only an entry to the upside, okay? sorry, Aussie versus pound. Okay, negative to the downside. Aussie is weaker than the pound. Excuse me. Negative 4.4. Negative 4 minus negative 0.4. Okay, so fundamentals are to the downside. We're only looking for entries to the downside. All right, so this is a blank chart. All right, let's just make sure that we're adding area sensitivity in zones. Okay, so what you want to do when there's a blank chart, you just want to take it to all historicals. Okay, as far back as we can go, as we can see, 1995 or June 3rd, 1995. Okay, so what we're going to do is this: identify all zones. Monthly zone, okay, high. It's at its highest high. Okay, that's where you usually start. Lowest low, okay? Now we're looking for mid-range area sensitivity. Copy paste, just bring it down, bring it down, bring it down. All right, now here we see horizontal buy pressure, sell pressure. Okay, now some of you are like, David, well, why is this a mid-range zone? Price here traded beneath. Guys, what happened here? This is a push, right? What's after a push to the downside? Exhaustion to the upside. And if there's a continuational move, only then is price trading beneath area sensitivity. The fact that price broke back to the upside without price action and entry confirmation means that this is a stop hunt, which is a higher time frame pin bar. So we know that if we could go higher than the monthly time frame, that this would be a pin bar. So it is showing us respect, okay? We know that it is because this became a stop hunt. So, all right. Now we've identified our monthly zones. All right, now what? It's time to identify weekly. So what's in between our monthly zones? Let's write our weekly zones. Let's identify weekly mid-range. Okay. I'm just gonna put it across right now and change the color. I like to keep my weeklies at yellow or green. Okay. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm looking for mid-range area of sensitivity. I'm bringing it down, bringing it down. Okay, so we might have an upper and a lower. Why? Here's horizontal buy pressure, horizontal sell pressure. That's one zone. Bringing it down, bringing it down, bringing it down, boom. All right, what is this? Horizontal buy pressure, right? Buy pressure, buy pressure, buy pressure. Here we can see sell pressure. Okay, this is an area of sensitivity. So now we've identified area sensitivity. That's great. So we have our monthly upper, monthly mid, weekly lower, weekly upper. Okay, so now let's identify what the hell is going on here. So here we see price make its way to the downside. Find a reinjection of buy pressure from our monthly mid-range zone. Now what's important about this reinjection of buy pressure is that price, okay, is making its way, has not made double confirmation. Excuse me, I had a moment there where I was looking at something. Okay, so price found a reinjection of buy pressure. Okay, this is an impulse move, right? Because we have take profit, stop losses, market reaction to area of sensitivity. Okay, what's a retest? Then what's after that? Usually double confirmation. But what happened is that price did not come for an impulse move back to the downside at double confirmation. What we saw is that price just made a move right to the upside with a push, okay, telling us that price is going to have a harder time to come back to the downside. But we are now seeing a shift in fundamentals. Fundamentals are saying, hey, price is going to come back to the downside. But what does price need to do first before it comes back to retest previous low? Sell pressure needs to break buy pressure to the downside, okay? So what would our entry be here on Aussie Pound, considering that our analysis is strictly to the downside? That's right. Let's identify. Okay. That's going to be TP. Okay. Good. Looking for mid-range area sensitivity. So here, what do I see? Right? Buy pressure, sell pressure, buy pressure. Okay, so mid-range is going to be slightly above where I had it. Usually it's 50% of the way. Keep it slightly above. Is there anything else? Okay, so here's the thing. In this scenario, I might have 3 targets. And the reason why is because of this. I usually like to have my TP1 either 50% of the way to my final target, okay? If it's closer than 50%, many times you might find 3 targets, right? So, let me just show you. That's TP1, right? And boom. Here we have another area of sensitivity. So when we take it back, what is this? That's buy pressure. That's buy pressure. Buy pressure clearly, okay? So let's take it back down to the daily time frame. Add this in as an area of sensitivity. Okay, that's TP2, TP1. Every time you place a target or an SL, it must have a reason to be there. If there is no reason, then there's no reason if you trade. You just shouldn't be trading. Okay. SL where we would like our SL above area of sensitivity to protect us to the downside. Okay, so let me make sure SL is proper. Okay, so we're pretty much extended as max as we can for SL, okay? What's important about stop loss, I'm going to give you a second here. For those of you who have been members with me for a while, you know this already. What's important in terms of the distance of the stop loss? It is that our stop loss distance is equal to or less than the distance to our TP1. Remember, if you know me and you know my strategy, whenever price reaches TP1, I close half my profit and I take SL and I move it to entry. And the reason why I do that is because then you're playing with house money, okay? You close your trade at a 1-to-1. So for example, if I'm risking 2% on my trade and I close half my trade at TP1, if I'm risking 2% of my account, right? I'm risking 2% of my account to win a minimum of 4%, right? 1 to 2 risk reward, right? So that means that at TP1 I should already be at 2%. So at TP1 I close half my position and I let my other half of the position move to my final target. If there's 3 targets, like in this scenario, I would close 33% of my trade at TP1, then another 33 at TP2, and then obviously close the remaining at TP3 and so forth. If there's 4 targets, for example, that's more rare, but it does happen. Okay, so what we need to have, because we close half our trade at TP1, we need to make sure our risk reward is at a minimum 1-to-1 to TP1. So that means that our SL distance cannot be, meaning that the distance from entry, right, to our stop loss cannot be longer than the distance from entry to our TP1. Let's move it down. As you can see, it is. So in this scenario, instead of looking at previous history and whatnot, I'm just going to max it out. I'm going to max out my SL to as high as possible. Boom. Now it's at a 1-to-1. Done. So I know that when price reaches TP1 and I move my SL to entry, okay, half my positions closed, I'm playing with house money, my risk reward is still optimal. Okay, so Aussie Pound. Okay, fundamentals are to the downside, which means we're only entering to the downside. What are we waiting for? We're waiting for a push to the downside, exhaustion, and then a continuational push. All right, again, we'll be posting the signals, and then once we get close to entry, it'll be on the traffic light systems. And team, also, just have fun with the tools today, okay? We're going to be continuously adding tools to the tools section. Just have fun with this. Play around with the heat map. Okay, just move around. See what's going on here. As you can see in this scenario, for example, here, Aussie Pound, right? Aussie Pound, okay? As you can see, negative 0.551%, okay? Showing us, again, weakness in the Australian dollar as expected, all right? So, and also, by the way, you can always just connect straight to TradingView by clicking this icon right here and it just takes you right to trading view. Okay, so Aussie Pound, moving on. Clicking the wrong buttons. Okay, Aussie Yen is next. Okay, just want to make sure this is proper. Okay. All right. Aussie Yen monthly time frame. What are we talking about here in terms of strength? Okay, and first thing you do, identify fundamental direction. Okay, so Aussie is at a negative 4.1. Yen is currently at a positive 2.1. Perfect, right? So we have a strong fighter versus a very weak fighter. That's exactly what we're looking for, right? A Floyd Mayweather versus your next door neighbor. And we have the ability to enter at a proper risk reward. Great. Okay, so monthly upper, monthly mid, monthly lower zone. Okay, here's our weekly upper, weekly lower. All right, let's identify. Let's just talk about what's going on here. We saw a downtrend, right? Lower lows. Price made a strong move. Just like we saw in Aussie USD, Aussie had a ton of weakness with the spread of the virus. Okay, fundamental and institutional support, shooting it back to the upside, and then fundamental shifted. Then we had technical support, right? So as price was getting protection from institutions, coming back to the upside, fundamentals start to shift, and then yen actually had some strength against Australian dollar. Okay, as fundamentals start to shift, money was going into safe haven status. Okay, so this is a push to the upside. Why is this a push to the upside? Because buy pressure is beating not only sell pressure from our weekly lower zone, but also sell pressure from our higher time frame downtrend. Right. So here's a push. What's after a push to the upside? That's right, an exhaustion to the downside, where then we're looking for a continuational push. Okay, so now let's take it to the weekly for a closer look. All right. Push, exhaustion, right? Let me just remove this so it doesn't confuse you. Okay, so here's that push, right? This is not a push, okay? It would have been a push if it would have saw a price action entry confirmation at completion of exhaustion. It didn't. Price broke back to the downside, making it a stop hunt. So here's a push. Here's the relative exhaustion. Since price broke back to the upside, push, exhaustion, okay? Now, we know that this is a strong exhaustion. And this was a strong exhaustion because actually the Australian dollar was not as weak as it was last week, okay? Right here. Significantly strong exhaustion. What do we require with significantly strong exhaustions? Double confirmation. So here's an impulse move. What's an impulse move? In your head, I want you to say it with me. Take profits, stop losses, and limit orders. Market reaction to area of sensitivity. Okay? That's an impulse move. That doesn't tell us that that's a change in direction. What tells us a change in direction is when price comes back to meet previous low, is there going to be another injection of buy pressure? That's the question. That tells us if there's a change in direction. Okay? Now, we have a weak fighter versus strong fighter. Okay? Fundamental direction. Where is it? Downside. Okay? So, when we take it to the weekly time frame, that analysis became invalid. Why? Fundamental directions to the downside. Okay? The reason why we did not enter to the upside here is because there was a strong exhaustion. We require double confirmation. So what's happening now, team? Price is making its way to retest previous low for double confirmation. It has a significantly weak Australian dollar, strong yen. So we're likely going to see price break beneath previous low, completely eliminating any potential long to the upside. Okay, if we see a break to the downside, we wait for that push, we wait for exhaustion, and then potentially, assuming fundamentals are the same, we will look for a continuational push to reach our lower levels of sensitivity. Okay, so we're moving on from Aussie Yen to Aussie Kiwi. Okay. There's a question on the chat room. Where do you see which currency is stronger than the other? Okay, sorry, by the way, I don't have my chat. The chat room's not up here, so I have to kind of go see the chat room. You can use FX Blue, but we will be using our own custom currency strength coming shortly, which is all our partner brokers and all their orders. So how many actual orders are buy orders, how many are sell orders, and that's how we identify the strength based on what actual placement of orders. Okay, so Aussie, Kiwi. All right, what do we have? We have our monthly upper, monthly lower. Okay, here's weekly upper, weekly lower. Aussie negative 4.1, Kiwi is at a negative 1.6. So the Australian dollar is actually weaker than the New Zealand dollar. And why does that make sense? Usually, here, let me ask you this, and maybe you can respond to this question. All right, you can also reply to the chat room if you know the answer. Why does the Australian dollar, when the Australian dollar is strong, why is it usually stronger than the New Zealand dollar? And when the Australian dollar is weak, why is it usually weaker than the New Zealand dollar? If you can answer that question. All right. Reason being is this. Australian dollar and the Kiwi are correlated. Okay, Australia and New Zealand are on the other end of the world in the middle of nowhere. Okay, they're by each other. They are trade partners with one another. They rely on the same, they have the same climate, they have the same exports, same imports. Their number one trade partner is China, Asia. Okay, now when the Australian economy in general compared to the Kiwi is larger, okay, which means that when things are going good, it's going better. When things are going bad, it's going worse. Okay, so right now we're seeing negative 4.1 on the Australian in terms of fundamentals, and we're seeing a negative 1.6 in the Kiwi. And the reason why they're not negative 4.1 and negative 4.1, because you know, some people who are new or people who would analyze this for the first time, or anybody who understands that Kiwi and the Australian economy are very similar and correlated, they would say, well, why is the fundamentals in terms of the weakness, why is it not the same? Okay, the reason why it's not the same is for those reasons. Okay, when things are good, it's better, it's bigger in the Australian economy. When things are bad, it's worse in the Australian economy. Okay, so Aussie negative 4.1, Kiwi negative 1.6. Fundamental direction to which direction? Downside, right? So we're only looking for technical entries to the downside. So here's our monthly upper zone. Here's our monthly lower zone. Here's our weekly upper, weekly lower. Okay, push, exhaustion. All right. Now, taking it to the weekly time frame, what were we looking for last week? We said, look, here in between our monthly upper and our weekly upper and our weekly lower is our daily mid-range. And last week we said, look, if price can break our daily mid-range to the upside with the push and exhaustion cycle, we have free range to our next level of sell pressure. So let's identify why we failed to see entry, why this entry became invalid. All right. And for those of you who are watching this, okay, and who are not a part of the gentleman community, the gentleman markets community, you likely don't know, but the number one requirement, if you take anything from me, okay, if you learn anything from me, it is to enter at completion of exhaustion, not at a completion of a push. Winners enter at completion of exhaustion, and losers will enter at a completion of a push, because exhaustion is the confirmation. Okay, so what our analysis was last week is this. We said if we have the push to the upside breaking our daily mid-range zone, we wait for exhaustion, price action entry confirmation before a continuational move. So here we have a push, right? So here's the push. Now, who is entering? Which traders are entering at completion of a push? Breakout traders. How many traders do you think entered right here? Or right here? That's right. Breakout traders. Many times, breakout traders, other traders that are entering limit orders at minor exhaustions, right? Not completion of exhaustions, are losing. We, as winners, wait for completion of exhaustion and price action confirmation at completion of exhaustion. So what do we see here in summary? Push. What's after a push to the upside? Say it in your head. I want you to say it. After a push, there's what? An exhaustion. This is a strong exhaustion. So immediately we say double confirmation. We have an impulse to the upside. Does that signal a change in direction? No. Why? Stop losses, buy limit orders, take profits. This is a market reaction to area sensitivity, not a change in direction. Then what do we see? Boom. No double confirmation. There was no re-injection of buy pressure here. There was nothing. Price broke back to the downside, confirming that this trade became invalid. So, who do I feel sorry for? I feel sorry for the breakout traders that enter here. I feel sorry for the traders that entered at the minor exhaustion here. I feel sorry for any of the traders that entered here with buy limit orders. You know who I don't feel sorry for? I don't feel sorry for us. You know why? Because we don't enter that bullshit. All right? All right? And I know, listen, I'm going to say this right here. I know that some of you, Gentleman Markets has a lot of members, and some of these members are other signal providers who are trying to take what I do and do it themselves. But guess what? They're doing their analysis based on memory. They're trying to memorize what I'm doing. It's not based on knowledge. Okay? For those of you who pay attention to like, you know, spiritual stuff, or to the yogis, or, you know, people who reach enlightenment, which is something I'm trying to learn more about. You know, I'm trying to get my mental game into check right now. You know, I got my financial game good. I got my, you know, social game is good. All that stuff. I'm trying to get my mental consistency to be good. And I don't mean that in the terms of like one day I'm happy, one day I'm not. It's more like I have so much, I need to calm down. Like, there's so much I want to fucking do that I need to calm down. And sometimes that requires meditation and all that stuff. Now, for enlightenment, they say this. You reach enlightenment, and one of the ways you know you reach enlightenment is when you start to navigate the world based on knowledge, not based on memory. Okay? When you are a child, how do children act based on memory? They see you do something, and then they start to copy it, imitate it. Okay? That doesn't mean they necessarily do it properly, because they don't actually understand why. You know, like when a child starts to walk, why do you put one foot in front of the other? Not just because you see someone doing it, right? So what I'm trying to say is this. I encourage you all to gain knowledge. Don't just memorize what I'm doing. Don't just trade based on memory. Trade based off of knowledge. And for all you, you know, fake signal providers, for all you people trying to, for, you know, even members within the portal who are trying to take my stuff and post it, the reason why I do not give a shit is because you are doing it based on memory and not based on knowledge, and you will fail because of that. Okay? What I do is based on knowledge. There's a reason why I don't have indicators. There's a reason why I don't need them, because I understand why the market moves. I understand why buyers buy. I understand why sellers sell. I understand why zones are area of sensitivity. I understand why Fibonacci is an area of sensitivity. I understand all these things. Risk reward, money management. It's based on knowledge. It is not based on memory. I'm not doing these analyses based on memory. So my challenge to you is to navigate life based on knowledge. And the only thing that I'm really navigating life based on knowledge, to be honest with you, is trading and, you know, some like finances. You know, I'm really good at that. My knowledge stuff right now, in terms of, you know, mental and meditation and calming down and all that stuff, right now that's based on memory. I'm thinking to myself, okay, what did this guy say? Think about it. But I'm hoping to get to the point where that comes based on knowledge, based on experience, based on understanding, and of course little things, you know, based on understanding, like dwelling on things you cannot control. You know, based on doing that, from historically doing that, you gain knowledge and understanding that that's not beneficial. So my goal to you is to understand what the fuck I'm talking about. Don't just copy it, okay? And for all of you that are copying it and doing your thing, I don't care, because like I said, you're going to fail because you're doing it based on memory. You're not doing it based on knowledge. All right, so back on it, sorry. All right, so Aussie Kiwi now. We know, all right? So the reason why we failed to see an entry to the upside. Again, team, very simple. All right. We had the push, exhaustion. We failed to see double confirmation. Okay. So that's a failure of price action and entry confirmation. What would be price action and entry confirmation? It would be double confirmation, a re-injection of buy pressure. So like, for example, at a retest would be a bullish engulfing candle or a significant pin bar. That is an entry to the upside. Now, as price moved back to the downside and broke back to the downside, what happened? This trade became invalid. Okay, it's important to understand that not entering a losing trade is just as good as entering a winning one. Okay, it's very important to understand that. Okay. Aussie Kiwi. Next one is Swiss Franc Yen. Okay, so Swiss franc is positive 2.2, yen is positive 2.1. What does that mean in terms of fundamental direction? It is flat. It is flat. So for us to find an entry to the upside, that means that, or to the downside, that means that technicals must be so significantly clear that fundamentals, because it's flat, doesn't matter. Okay, so let's check if that's the case. All right, so Swiss franc yen, monthly upper, monthly lower. Here's our weekly mid-range zone. Okay, what's in between our weekly mid-range and our monthly? That's right, our daily. So here's our daily upper and our daily lower. We've just identified area of sensitivity, battleground, right? So what do we see here? We see a strong move off our weekly mid-range zone, breaking above our daily, breaking above our daily upper zone, breaking above our daily lower and our upper zone, excuse me, and then is now seeing sell pressure. Why are we seeing sell pressure? Is that expected? Yeah, that's expected. We know that fucking price is reaching our monthly upper zone. We know that this is a significant area of sell pressure, which means that we know that there's going to be sell pressure here. If you were long in this scenario, which we were, by the way, we had an entry here at in May or June. Okay, if you had a long up here, your final target had to be your monthly upper zone. It had to be. You know that there's going to be a significant area of sell pressure now. So what is this, team? This move right here. Impulse, right? Take profits, stop losses, sell limit orders. Oops. Just remove the daily lower zone. Making sure. One sec, sorry. Want to make sure daily lower zone is proper. Boom. Okay. So impulse move to the downside, right? From our monthly upper zone. Stop losses, buy limit orders, sell limit orders, take profits. Market reaction to area of sensitivity. Now, price is making its way back to the upside, but is obviously seeing some sell pressure, okay, at its daily upper zone. All right. So as you can see here, what happens, what it looks to be forming a bearish engulfing candle. Now, okay, so I just want to make this clear. You don't need to find an entry on every pair. Okay, you don't need to. Not every pair you're going to look for an entry. You want to do your analysis on all the pairs, figure out what looks good, what's the top, and then focus on those pairs. But if you had to enter either to the upside or to the downside, why? And my question to you would be this. Why would we only be entering to the downside? Take a moment, look at the charts. Okay, exactly, because we are reaching and nearing our monthly upper zone. If price starts to make its way to its monthly zone, the closer it gets, the more opportunity sell pressure has to swing direction. Okay, I would rather make my way to the downside to our lower daily zone than to our monthly upper, because I know that at any moment we could see a re-injection of sell pressure due to the fact that there's no clear fundamental direction. Okay, so for those of you who are interested in Swiss franc yen, and I want to make this clear, I am not, because I need fundamental direction. Okay, you see a bit of a higher high. Okay, if you are looking for an entry, you'd wait for price to break this uptrend, push, exhaustion, price action, and entry confirmation before then a continuational move to low. But why would you keep this lower risk? There is no fundamental direction. Okay, so if you do find an entry here, it has to be low risk. But again, you don't need to enter every pair. You find what's working, what's good, what looks good, and then you look at those high probability entries. USD CAD. Okay, USD CAD monthly time frame. Now, I can't wait to get this thing working. I can draw on the charts. I will, unless this thing is broken, but I don't think I broke it in the last, like, I didn't do anything. I should be all right tomorrow. Okay, so here we see what is a cup and handle. All right, so this formation is called the cup and handle. For some of you, by the way, who want to understand like these types of chart patterns, I would suggest a book for you called Encyclopedia of Chart Patterns. Now, this is an expensive book. It is a big book. It's about like 200 something bucks, but it gets you familiar with pattern recognition. It helps pattern recognition, okay? However, it is not specific for Forex. With that being said, when you understand pattern recognition, when you understand why buyers are buying and why sellers are selling, it all makes sense, okay? So, in summary here, we have a cup and handle, and I'm going to say this, it's bullshit. Again, you don't need to know that crap, okay? You don't need to know that crap. What do you need to know? Horizontal area of buy and sell pressure. Zones. I don't need to know a cup and handle. I don't need to know this bad or that bad. I need to know who has the fundamental direction and where is the area of sensitivity, because then I'm waiting for price to break or reach that area of sensitivity before its next battle. So cup and handle bullshit has been summarized to what? Consolidation. Okay, simple. Horizontal sell pressure meeting up with what? Horizontal buy pressure. What's in between? We have our weekly upper and weekly lower. Okay, so now let's identify what's happening. We have a move to the downside, okay? We had the push, exhaustion became a push back to the downside. Let's take a closer look. Okay, actually, you know what? First, we need to identify fundamental direction, right? So USD is a negative 4.4 and the Canadian dollar is at a negative 1.5, which means that what? Our fundamental direction is to the downside, so we're looking only for entries to the downside, okay? So, push. Exhaustion. What's next? Continuational push. Fundamentals are to the downside, so it's pretty clear to us, right? That sell pressure is likely going to test at some point previous low, correct? But what would we be waiting for an entry to the downside? Because previous low is too short. There's not much space to come in there. That's right. Boom. Whereas TP1 somewhere 50% of the way. Now it's time to optimize. Okay, so let's take it back a time frame, higher time frame, to understand where our final target should be. So for me, I'm looking for my final target. Okay, now I want to make this clear because some of you are not with us. Some of you, are not part of the gentleman markets that are watching this. Okay, and the monthly zones are. The question I get asked a lot is, why are our zones like so thick? Why is it not just like one line? Okay, one thing I want you to pay attention to is, first off, as the time frames go down, our zones get shorter. So our weekly zone in terms of its distance is in height is smaller than the monthly. Okay, just something to notice, because as I talk, it'll make sense. Now, zones are like trampolines. It's not just like a concrete floor where you just hit it and either you bounce or not. It's a trampoline. When sell pressure meets buy pressure at a zone, it's a trampoline. It's between buyers and sellers. When there's, the movie Braveheart, when they meet at the line, right? Back like when war, back in the 1500s, when they were idiots and just ran at each other with swords, right? That line of scrimmage, for example, that moves. Sometimes one army's winning, then the other army starts to win. That line moves back and forth. That's why the zone is not just one concrete line. It's a trampoline. Okay? There's also stop punts that happen. There's also penetration, right? So we have to identify it as a trampoline. Okay, so that's why our zones are like that. Now, again, push, exhaustion, continuational push. Our analysis is very simple, team, on this one. We have to wait for sell pressure to meet buy pressure at our weekly lower zone. Sell pressure must beat that buy pressure to the downside with the push. We then wait for exhaustion, price action, entry confirmation before a continuational push. Again, you go to gentleman markets, okay? You will go to the signal section, excuse me. All right, it will be on the left side. And obviously we have all the new verified member signals, okay? And traffic light. Now, just want to mention, if you wish to become a verified member for gentleman community, anybody can apply, whether you are a member or not. But I do require that you have some sort of historical trading. I want to know if you're good or not. All right. So I'm going to test you. I'm going to put you through analysis. I'm going to give you some stuff that I'm going to make you point out. I want to see your historical trades. Everybody who becomes a verified trader on the FXG platform, Gentleman Markets, okay, verified members down here, as you can see. Everybody here is a representative of me, okay, which means what? That I'm not going to let you become a verified trader just because you want to become a verified trader. Okay, if you want to become a verified trader, you have to be good, because the people that are part of the gentleman community expect that, including myself. Okay, so I get a lot of messages, hey, how do I become a verified member? Well, first you got to be a good trader. Okay, first you got to be a good trader. All right, and of course, if you are a member, I will help you get there. I will help you, get there. It's not just like, oh, you're not ready, bye-bye. It's okay, here's what you need to improve on, and here's when we can try again. Okay, so USD CAD signal will be posted on the gentleman markets. USD Yen. All right, now USD Yen, okay, is interesting, and it's just another example as to why the USD is weaker than the yen in terms of safe haven status. Okay, remember what we said. We said that the USD, before shit hit the fan in terms of COVID, USD, Swiss Franc, and yen were safe haven status. Meaning, when shit does hit the fan, liquidity goes into safe haven status, away from more higher risk investments. With that being said, the US dollar is no longer acting like that. So the USD is at a negative 4.4. and the Swiss franc is at a positive 2.2. Okay? Sorry, and then yen is at a positive 2.1, excuse me. So you have a weak fighter versus strong fighter, right? Now what's interesting here, right, is as you can see, even though the USD is not acting as a safe haven status, there's still up and down movements with USD yen, because yen is not the strongest of the safe haven. The strongest of the safe haven is the Swiss franc, and we'll see that when we take it to USD Swiss franc. Take a look at that. As you can see, take a look at this drop. Okay, when the virus first came out, this was how it was acting, how it should, just up, down, consolidation, because they were both safe haven status. As the USD started to lose its safe haven status, it started to test its monthly zone. Okay, that's unusual. That doesn't usually happen. Okay, so USD Swiss franc, we're not looking for it was USD yen. We're not looking for an entry to the downside or to the upside, because even though USD is weaker than the yen, as you can see historically, okay, there's still a lot of up and down movements, because still the market assumes that USD is a safe haven status. Okay, and I gotta be honest with you, and I'll give you an example. I want to make this clear too. Okay, just a little something. A lot of you have a financial advisor, and that's okay. My mom still has a financial advisor, even though she asks me all the time, and I'm the one, moving her money around and all that stuff. But here's the thing: these financial guys that come from universities, they know how to be a financial advisor or money manager from learning from the book. What does the book say? What does it say? When shit hits a fan, USD goes up. When I had a meeting with my wife's family's new financial advisor after COVID, he did not know that the US dollar does not act like a safe haven status anymore. This is why on the charts, even though we're seeing tremendous weakness in the USD versus yen, idiot investors like your mom and pop's financial advisor, they're still funneling money into the US dollar. Listen, it all comes down to this. Nobody is going to do anything for you, right? You need to learn yourself. Don't just make money and expect someone else to go make money for you. That's not how it works, okay? Nobody's going to care about your money more than you do. And believe me, they make money based on quantity. It's not just about managing your $100,000 or your $200,000 or your $5,000. They don't make much money on that, right? Because they're not day trading it. They're not a fund. They're not a hedge fund, right? Most financial advisors work for like TD or Citibank or JP Morgan or Wells Fargo, and they're more longer term dividend type investors. Okay, they require quantity. What does that mean? They require many clients. Are you going to get the time of day that you require? Is your money going to get the attention that you require? Are you getting the best knowledge and services that you require? No. Can you go anywhere and do that? The answer is no. The only person that's going to care about your money is you. You have to learn. You have to learn how to do things yourself. Do not just make money and give it to some financial guy to blow it for you. Or the opportunity cost. Maybe he's, how many times do I hear, yeah, my financial advisor is whatever, but I made a 2% over the last 4 years. Well, guess what? You're below inflation. And also, what's the opportunity? What would you have made if you had not been with your financial advisor and you have had the knowledge to do things yourself? I'm telling you, and this is a true story, one of the top financial advisors did not know that the USD does not act as a safe haven status. You are responsible for your money. Nobody else. Okay? So, sorry, I got a little heated there because I can't tell you. It's just one of those things where it's like, where does the bullshit end, right? Now there's just so much bullshit, and I'm not talking about in terms of like Instagram and all those scamming. I'm talking about from professionals. Okay? One of the things that I've learned over time, and by the way, this is kind of like the new platform for FXG Live, right? You're going to be with me longer now since, I'm more back at the trading rather than the entrepreneurial side. So one of the things, let me just explain. I'm a guy that's been through a lot of good things, a lot of bad things. All right, at 16 years old, I left home. I lived a 3-hour flight away from home at 16 years old to play professional hockey. Okay, at the time they put me in with someone else. It's called a billet. Essentially, you live at someone else's home. They do your laundry. They cook your food. They do everything for you. Okay, when I went to school, I didn't have school. We had tutors that did everything for me. When we were on the road and had homework, the tutors did my homework for me. Not just me, for all the guys, right? But so I have what I'm trying, and I got to travel across North America. I got to play, as a 16-year-old. What's better than going to school? Well, everything I was doing, traveling, getting to play in front of 15 to 20,000 people a night, right? I got to experience a lot of cool things. So I got to see life from a different perspective, but also I got to experience things from a different perspective. And one of the things that I can come back and I say, man, I feel a little bit like, fuck, I'm like, thinking about this. Getting a little emotional. One of the things that's important to understand is that give respect only when it's earned. And it's one of the biggest problems, but also one of the biggest benefits of my life. I used to be one of those guys where anybody who was elder, anybody who was in a position that I was not in, I gave them undoubtedly unconditional respect. Meaning I listened to everything they said, meaning I took everything to heart. I was a 16-year-old kid who went to play professional hockey. I had a coach that, because I'm tall, right, I'm 6'4", right? And, you know, for hockey players, that's pretty average. A lot of guys were 6'2", 6'4", right? But I'm on the bigger side of things. He wanted me to fight, right? Now, in hockey, fighting is a part of the game, but it wasn't my style of game. I was a 16-year-old and he was telling me to fight, you know, 20-year-old guys that are 6'7", 300 pounds, you know, things like that. I that wasn't my game. That wasn't the type of thing that I wanted to do. However, because he was an elder, because he was my coach, because I automatically gave him respect, I did as he pleased. Which I fucking hate. But over time, I started to, he wouldn't play me unless I fought, right? I would have NHL scouts come to my games to watch me. I would have NHL scouts fly to my parents' home to spend time with me, them, get to know them, not me, them. And then when they would come watch my games, they would fly to come watch me play. He wouldn't play me. Here's the thing. That taught me two things in my life. Sorry. It taught me that you are the only person that should have control over your own destiny. I knew at that moment, there was something that clicked in me. I knew at that moment that I would never, ever, ever work for anybody else ever again. I would never let anybody have the power to shift and choose the direction of my life. At that moment, I became an entrepreneur. At that moment, I also gained a lot of anxiety because I knew I would never be able to work for anybody. And at that moment, when I became an entrepreneur, decided I was going to be an entrepreneur, I didn't have a successful company. I wasn't a profitable trader. There was a lot of anxiety that came with that. It was to the point where I would rather die than work for someone else. And I'm not even kidding. I would rather die than work for someone else. That's number one. Number two is this. I assumed that my coach was a good coach because of the position he was in. I realized he wasn't a good coach. Then, after I quit hockey because I hated it so much, I started my company Potential Apparel, and I started sponsoring NHL guys that I knew and all that's right because I played with all of them, right? So I started sponsoring guys. We sponsored 30 professional athletes, and I started to, you know, make my way into the NHL crowd, and I started to hang out with the players and start to understand and get to know the coaches. And let me tell you something, even at the highest level, you do not give respect until it is earned. These financial advisors that came to my wife's family's home that are the number one in the city did not know that the US dollar does not act like a safe haven anymore. You do not give people respect until it is earned. Now, I say that with some caution because it has brought me some negative things in life. And the reason why is because I've become a little bit more hard with people. Until I like them, until they've given me to respect them, I don't really give people the time of day or the respect that they necessarily should get until they've proven it to me. So what do I mean? Well, let's say I go to my accountant and I start asking for advice. Like, or not my accountant. Let's say I go look for a new accountant and I'm interviewing this guy. Am I going to listen to everything he says as like, am I going to give him the respect? I'm going to fucking grill him. He's going to not like me by the end and probably not want me to be his client. But I'm going to fucking grill you because until you don't answer my questions properly, until I don't believe, until you don't do that, I don't give you the respect that you earn, that you think you deserve. And that has gotten me to a position of sometimes loneliness because people know that I'm like that now. People know that I'm going to grill them. People don't necessarily think that I'm a comforting man anymore. And that's because of the fact that I don't care how old you are. I don't care what position you are. Unless you prove to me that you earn my respect, I'm not giving it to you. And I guess that's not necessarily the best way about it. What I'm trying to transition and trying to shift to is I want to give you a level of respect initially until you know, but not fully, until you then either give me a reason to give you full respect or not. But right now I start at 0 with people. I start at 0 respect. And I'm not talking about like just the average person I meet on the street. I'm always nice to people. I'm talking about like if there's business to be done, if you are to be my coach or to be a mentor, to be my accountant or financial advisor or this, I give you 0 respect until you earn it. And that's not the best way to go. So in summary, sorry for being a little emotional there. In summary, what my life has taught me is this: I will never let anybody dictate the direction of my life. I will die on my own sword. I will die on my own sword. And number 2 is I don't give respect until it's earned. And because of that, it saved me from some bad people. Okay? Whew. Appreciate it. Thanks for that was a good session, venting session. Okay. We're going to continue. All right, USD Swiss Franc. Okay. As you guys can see, as you mentioned, USD Swiss Franc, we're seeing strength in the Swiss franc against the US dollar, so we're seeing a move to the downside. Now, as I said, before COVID, if you told me, hey, look, we're going to be looking for an entry to the downside on USD Swiss Franc, I would say you're an idiot because those two pairs are strongly correlated, right? But now, because the USD is not acting as a safe haven status, and it's clearly, as we can see clear here, the US dollar is weakening against the Swiss franc, also showing us that the Swiss franc is the number 1 safe haven status. Okay, we see an impulse move to the upside. Okay, what's after an impulse move? Move to the downside. Why are we likely going to see a move to the downside? Because that's our fundamental direction. Now, why do we believe that potentially this fundamental direction will last longer than other fundamental directions? Maybe take a moment to think about that. Okay, the reason why is this. Swiss franc is a safe haven status. Virus cases and numbers are going to go up, especially through winter. Okay, so money's going to go more into safe haven. So we're going to see continued strength in the Swiss franc. Now, even if the USD starts to see some strength, liquidity is still moving into safe haven status, which means that the Swiss franc is still going to see strength even if the USD switches. It's not like some pairs, whereby if one pair is weak, the other one must be strong. Okay? In this scenario, the USD can get stronger, but the Swiss franc can also keep its strength. Okay? So, all right. Final target, TP1 is going to be 50% of the way there. Okay. Mid-range, what are we looking for? I'm looking for any horizontal area sensitivity historically. Okay, so here, what do I see? See buy pressure and buy pressure. So I definitely want to make sure that my TP1 is there. We're maybe going to have TP2. Let me bring it down to the weekly, see if there's any lower time frame stuff. Okay, boom, right here. Why is that? Sell pressure, buy pressure. Okay, there we go. Right, so and TP1 will be right there. All right, so boom, TP1, TP2, TP3. Now SL, where is it going to be? Think about this. This one's relatively easy in terms of SL placement. Okay, we want to make sure that we have the most amount of sell protection. So in the event that price comes against us, we know that this daily zone is going to act as a level of sell protection. But can we be slightly above? Yeah, we can. Right? As you can see here, we want to be slightly above this previous high. Okay? Right? if we can be slightly above, we know that this level acts as a lower time frame level of sensitivity because this is the stop hunt, right? This is a higher time frame stop hunt. So we know that this would be, if we have our SL slightly above, that gives us the room we need. Okay, so these are the minor things, the small adjustments that make all the difference, right? So here, instead of price being at previous high, exactly at previous high, being slightly above makes all the difference. Okay, so USD Swiss Franc, what are we waiting for? We're waiting for sell pressure to beat buy pressure with the clear push, exhaustion. Then what's next? Continuational push. Okay. Now next is CAD Yen. Okay. Fundamental direction, team. Let's talk about this. Canadian dollar negative 1.5. Yen is a positive 2.1, which means what? We have a weak fighter versus strong fighter. Price in fundamental direction to the downside. Okay, so let's identify here. Okay, so using horizontal buy and sell pressure, we identified our monthly upper, monthly lower. Here's our weekly upper, weekly lower. We see respected lower lows, so we also identify our higher time frame monthly downtrend. Okay, so what do we see here? We see a push, and price is now making its way with fundamental and technical support to test its weekly lower zone. Okay, so what do we know from our weekly lower zone? We know that that's an area of sensitivity. We know that there's going to be sell pressure there, right? So here's horizontal sell pressure. We have 1 level, 2 level, 3 levels. Why is price likely not going to break to the upside? Take a minute here. Price is likely not going to break to the upside. Why? Fundamental directions to the downside, so it doesn't have the technical support. Secondly, we know that our weekly lower zone is a significant area of sell pressure, but it's also coming into contact with sell pressure from its higher time frame downtrend. Price is going to require a significant amount of buy pressure for a shift in direction. Okay. Now, again, I believe that the Canadian dollar will continue to see weakness. Why is that? Okay, crude oil. All right. So what do we see here? What zone is in between our weekly and our monthly? It's our daily, right? So we see that there's horizontal sell pressure from our weekly, horizontal buy pressure from our daily. This is a level of what? Consolidation, correct? So we see 1 times, 2 times, 3 times price is failing to break to the upside because fundamentals are not to the upside, which means what? If we are going to find an entry to the downside, potentially we're going to have our final target at lower level of consolidation, right? So what are we going to look for here? Area sensitivity. Okay, what's in between our weekly and daily zones? That's right, our 4-hour zones. Okay, so that's 1 level, that's our upper, and this is our lower, right? Horizontal sell pressure turning into buy pressure, horizontal buy pressure. So we know what? We know that buy pressure is not breaking our weekly zone to the upside. We know that buy pressure is not going to be able to, sell pressure is now taking control. And if sell pressure breaks our 4H upper zone to the downside, it has free range to lower level of consolidation. Okay, so let's talk about this. All right, simplify, very, very much simplify. Fundamental direction to the downside. We're only looking for entries to the downside. Done. You know, direction already chosen. Done. Okay, we see that buy pressure is not able to break our weekly lower zone 1, 2, 3 times on the higher time frame. Okay, when we take it down to the 4-hour time frame, what we're going to see is a strong push. Okay, here's a strong push. What's this? Impulse move, right? Take profit, stop losses, market reaction to area sensitivity. Then what? Boom, retest. What's happening now? Re-injection of sell pressure. This is the confirmation of a change in direction. The double confirmation, not this. This is impulse. This is a re-injection. That's confirmation. So by identifying our 4-hour upper zone, we now know, okay, this is a level of buy pressure that sellers need to beat before then making free range. So what's our trade going to look like? right? Now, what's in between our weekly zone? We need to identify TP1, right? So we know that TP2 is going to be, we know that TP2 is going to be here at lower level of consolidation. TP3 is going to be at our daily mid-range zone, right? Where's TP1 going to be? Well, it has to be at our 1 hour mid-range zone, because we know that this is our 4 hour upper, 4 hour lower, which means what's in between our 1 hour mid-range. So we have to identify our 1 hour mid-range zone. Sometimes it's best to bring it up a time frame. Okay, and boom. Here's a 1 hour mid-range zone. As you can see, horizontal buy and sell sensitivity. So when I take it to the 4H, as you can see, it's 50% of the way there. Many times it is. Okay. That's how you know you've done your zones properly, by the way. When you have an upper and a lower zone, or one mid-range zone, that's roughly 50% of the way, you know it. If, for example, you did not have an upper zone or a lower zone, and you just had one zone that was up here, you know that your higher time frame zones are likely not proper. Okay, now SL. Okay, we have this level is one level of sell protection. All right, see if we can see another level. All right, in this scenario, I'm going to do this. I'm going to extend it to the max distance from TP1, and then I'm going to drop it down if needed. Okay, so as you can see, that's max. Sorry. When you lay something down, it should be laid on top, not at the bottom. Come on, Training View. Okay, so that's a max distance, right? That's a 1-to-1 to our TP1. Let's see here. Can we bring it down? What I see here is this. I'm seeing, as you can see, you see these levels of buy pressure? Bring it across the board. Are we above that? Yeah, we're above that. Okay, perfect. So, risk reward, 1-to-1, slightly less, 1-to-1, 1-to-2, 1-to-3. We are risking $1 to make $3. Proper money management, proper analysis, boom, we become the casino, not the player, right? Push to the downside. What's next? Exhaustion, price action entry confirmation for continuational push. Again, FXG markets, it'll be posted on the signals channel, and then on the homepage for traffic light system, okay? So you'll have a signal on this pair for CAD Yen. CAD Swiss Francs next. Swiss franc. All right, monthly time frame. Monthly mid, monthly upper, monthly lower, and our middle monthly zones. Now, what's important is where price is trading right now, okay? Here's what? Consolidation, horizontal sell pressure, horizontal buy pressure. We see a push breaking consolidation to the downside. We have exhaustion and a continuational push. Now, what's important about... Sorry, let me bring this back. What's important about what we see here with continuational push? Okay, continuational push failed to break previous low. Okay, again, when Canadian dollar was collapsing due to the lack of demand in crude oil as the virus was spreading, it had all the fundamental reasons to just collapse to the downside. Okay, especially against the Swiss franc, which was seeing a tremendous amount of strength as a safe haven status. But the reason why we fail to see price fails to break previous low is because this is government and institutional injection. Remember, I was telling you guys earlier in the live session how countries have debt so that other countries have vested interest that their currency does not go to shit, right? So that's what's happening here. Government institutional protection. So as price made a continuational push to the downside, there is no way that price was going to be able to break previous low. Okay? So no matter what, even if fundamentals were to the downside here, there was definitely no entry to the downside. So let's continue. Canadian dollar is a negative 1.5. Swiss franc here is at positive 2.2. So we have a weak versus a strong, okay? Which means what? Fundamental direction is to... Exactly. Okay? I don't even need to say it anymore. You guys know it, all right? So, with that being said, Okay, with that being said, with the weakness in the Canadian dollar, are we going to see a move to the downside? Or, I guess I should rephrase this question. With the weakness in the Canadian dollar, okay, are we going to see a high probability entry to previous low? And if not, why? Because we know that at any moment there can be institutional and government injection to the upside. Okay? Fundamentals had all the reason to move to the downside and failed to do so. Buy pressure entered. As the closer we get to previous low, the higher probability we have that price is just going to shoot against us. Okay? And it could be at any time. It could be in the middle. It could be because what I'm trying to say is this is a different type of protection. This isn't just like buy and sell pressure protection. Okay? This is like big liquidity, big move protection, which is why we're not looking for an entry to the downside. If we're looking for any entry, it's to the upside. Additionally, this is very messy. Okay, we have a break beneath previous low, and we know that this is our mid-range zone. Historically, it's been respecting it, but as of lately, we've been seeing stop on. Okay, price right now is trying to figure out its life. It's not a sexy pair. And because of that, we're going to move on. There won't be any analysis on CAD Swiss Franc, okay? Pound USD next. All right, Pound USD. Okay, here we are. Monthly zones. Okay, push, exhaustion, continuational push, failing to break monthly lower zone. We are now what? In consolidation in between our lower monthly and our mid-range. Here's our weekly upper, weekly lower. Okay, so before we get in, let's talk. Pound is at negative 0.4 and the US dollar is at a negative 4.4, which means what? Our fundamental direction is to the upside, which means we're only looking for an entry to the upside, okay? So what do we see here? We see price on the monthly time frame made a push to its weekly. We see exhaustion, and now we're seeing buy pressure test. So look, we're only on the monthly time frame and we already know what the fuck's going on. How simple is this when you actually know what you're doing, when you're trading based on knowledge, right? Not on memory, okay? We have buy pressure now about to meet and battle between sell pressure. And why is that? Because fundamentals are to the upside. Now, if buy pressure is able to beat sell pressure at a weekly upper, it has free range to where? Meaning high probability to our next area of sell pressure being our monthly zone. So we're looking to make money in between, okay? That's high probability area, okay? So, again, push, exhaustion, what's next? Push. Let's add our targets. Okay. SL. Okay, remember, I'm not placing it exactly. I'm just placing it right now just to move it. All right, so first thing first, we're looking for mid-range area sensitivity for TP1. All right, so here. See here? We have sell pressure, sell pressure, sell pressure, sell pressure. Okay, so TP1 is going to be slightly lower. All right, we slightly adjust. Boom. Okay, TP2 at monthly, so we know that's correct. Okay, SL, we have one protection of buy pressure here. That's our weekly upper. Can we find another level that still works with risk reward? Boom. What do we see here? We see buy pressure turning into sell pressure. I want to be slightly lower, and we are. So we have one level of higher time frame buy protection and a lower time frame level of buy protection. Okay. So what's next? Push. What's after that? Exhaustion. What's after that? Continuational push to the upside. Okay. So again, FXG. We're gonna take it to gentleman markets. Okay. This will be on the signals channel. Okay. And then once the signal's posted, okay, we're going to keep an eye on the traffic light system, okay? All right, so that's it for Pound USD. Moving on. Pound Yen, all right? Pound is what? -4. Yen is a positive 2.1, which means what? Fundamental direction. Okay, so relatively same, right? A lot of the same flow, okay, but not very nice. When we take a look, what I'm trying to say is this. Again, remember, it's not about trading every pair. It's about being accurate. Now, here's the thing. Pound USD, we have an entry to the upside. Pound USD, pound yen, we have an entry to the downside. The yen is a positive 2.1, right? So here's the thing, right? If we're going to see a nice high probability entry to the upside on pound USD, even though not correlated to pound yen, okay, we still see a lot of the same stuff, okay? So pound yen, I'm just not attracted to this pair. Fundamentals are telling me to the downside, but pound USD is telling me to the upside. We are seeing some buy pressure here, okay? All right, so in my opinion, pound yen is just not attractive. Even if it breaks its weekly to the upside, why would we not look to the upside? Because fundamentals are to the downside. Okay, so I'm not interested in pound yen. I'm interested potentially in Kiwi USD. Let's take a look. Okay. Kiwi USD. All right. Negative 1.6, USD is a negative 4.4. Push, exhaustion, push. Okay, here's our weekly lower, weekly upper, daily mid-range. These highlighted zones, they're just identifying where battleground is, okay? So, Kiwi is negative 1.6, USD is 1.4. Fundamental direction to the upside. Even though there's weakness in the Kiwi, there's a lot more weakness in the USD. So right now we're going to see buy pressure testing its daily mid-range zone. And if price breaks its daily mid-range zone to the upside with the push, we then wait for exhaustion and a continuational push to our next area of significant sell pressure. Okay? So that's it for that, and now we are going to go into more of the stock stuff. Okay, so we're going to keep our eye on these pairs. So we're going to here's what I do. Okay, after this is what I do. Okay, this is what you should do after you do your full analysis. Okay, you go through, all right, and you just mark, okay? You identify, all right? Some of you have a whiteboard. Some of you have a piece of paper. Some of you, it just doesn't matter, okay? What you need to do is you just identify, okay? So, for example, I have Euro USD long. All right? So I got to keep my eye on that. Okay, and you want to make sure it's close to you, or else you can lose track, especially when you're analyzing multiple pairs. Okay. So, all right. So Euro USD, Euro CAD. Okay. So boom. Euro CAD long. Okay. Now you can also set a watch list or an alarm. For example, a lot of times what you would want to do is set an alarm here when price comes back for exhaustion, and that will remind you on the pair. However, I like to just scroll through and check out how the pairs are doing. Okay, Euro Aussie long. However, this one's a previous analysis. We already know that. Okay. Euro Swiss Franc, we don't have one here. Euro Yen. Nope. Euro Kiwi, nope. Aussie Cad, nope. Aussie USD, potential long. Aussie USD long. Aussie Pound. Aussie Pound potential short, right? Oop. USD CAD short. USD obviously not, yeah. USD Yen obviously not. USD Swiss Franc also not. CAD USD. Okay, CAD USD. CAD JPY. CAD Swiss Franc. Pound USD long. Okay, pound yen is not going to be. And Kiwi USD. Okay, so as you guys can see, right? QSD will be along, I believe, but okay, so we have Euro USD long. Okay, we have Euro CAD long, Euro Aussie long, Aussie USD long, Aussie Pound short, USD CAD short, CAD Yen short, Pound USD long, Kiwi USD long. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different analysis that may play out. Are all these analysis going to play out? Absolutely not. But if 2 of them do, even if 1 of them do, it's a pretty fucking high probability one, right? It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. Okay? Well, I've talked about this before. If you look at the best athletes in the world, okay, they do not give a shit about the quantity. It's about the wins, okay? A lot of people expect to just make money right away trading, okay? You have to prove yourself, prove your worth first, prove that you can create wins. What percentage of your trades are winning trades? You know, when when Michael Jordan first went into the NBA, did he get his $12 million a year? No, he didn't. What did he do? He got his win percentage up. He would win games for the team. And then he got paid. We'll focus on your winning percentage and the money will come. Do not enter a trade unless you believe it will win, because that will fuck up with your winning percentage. Okay? Be a winner and the money will come. The contract will come. Okay? So, another thing I want to take a look at now, let's start looking at some of the... I'm gonna do Bloomberg for a sec. Want to listen to Bloomberg for a little bit. I'm gonna talk about Tesla here for a minute, and then we're gonna come back later on tonight for trading and gaming. Okay. So, let's think about this, okay? Tesla they have their earning reports coming out, okay? I think in the next couple hours. It's really slow load. Okay, yeah. All right. So as you can see, we have a Tesla. Okay, I want to see estimates. 401 billion market cap. EPS is 1.85. Cash flows 3.7. They're overpriced, but I want to see their daily volume. Okay, so Morgan Stanley saying hold, upgraded to buy. There's only one. Citigroup is only the one saying sell. Listen, Citigroup, suck it, okay? Citigroup is the worst, okay? There's good people that work for them, but why am I not surprised that they're the only ones saying sell? They think it's going to go down to 117 a share. Idiots. Okay. All right, so here's the thing with Tesla. Let's take it to the charts quickly. All right, so I want to add, in this scenario, this would be the only scenario where I actually add an indicator, and that would be just volume. And it's only for stocks. See, I don't even fucking know how to add an indicator because I never really use it. Okay. There it is. All right, so what this E does on the downside, what you see here is E. This is earnings. Okay? Quarterly earnings. Now, what you can see that's interesting, and something that I've noticed in the past is that volume on Tesla actually is low on earnings. Volume usually just starts to pick up a couple days after earnings. Okay, as you can see previous. Which means what? when volume spikes down during earnings and spikes up after earnings, it means that it's a safer bet to trade a couple days after earnings reports. That's when the market starts to price in things, and not that it's not already priced in expectations, right? So let's talk about the charts here. Okay, we're on the monthly time frame. What do we see here? This was a level of consolidation. Okay. I'm going to get into Tesla. I want to do a little bit of explain to you why I am looking to add more positions. You know what? Our monthly zones are blue, not green. Okay. So we have consolidation here, right? Tesla made a push to the upside. Okay. What's after a push to the upside? An exhaustion to the downside. Okay. We saw a reinjection of buy pressure, and Tesla has made its way. Okay. So this would have been, for those of you who have been with me for a long time, you know I've been telling you, okay, if you're going to rebuy Tesla, you're going to buy at the exhaustion. Okay. So we did, and you're good on that. All right, now let's look at what's going on here for those of you who are long-term investors and for those of you who are short-term investors. Okay, long-term investors, you're not going to get Tesla at 81 anymore. Price is not going to come down to previous level of consolidation. Okay, Tesla is seeing a strong increase. The market is a positive on Tesla, meaning the fact that millennial traders, I mean, look, it's increased more percentage-wise than like Zoom and all these companies than all these companies since COVID, all right? That's because liquidity is going in there, okay? There's a lot of trust. Now let's identify area of sensitivity. Okay, one area. Why is this area sensitivity? This is the daily time frame. Horizontal sell pressure now turning into buy pressure. Okay, we also have here, so let's add, that's the low side, right? Let's add the high side. Boom. Okay, and then what? Do we see any higher highs? Yes, we do. Okay, so right now what's happening is Tesla is getting squeezed, okay? But again, the market is already priced in. The market's already priced in the market's expectations. Okay? Price is at previous high. The only way we're going to be looking for an entry to the upside is if price breaks previous high with a push, then we wait for minor exhaustion and a continuational push. Why are we not going low? Okay? The reason why we're not going short is because, well, first off, historically, any short sellers on Tesla just get their ass kicked. Okay. Secondly, if you're like me, you're analyzing a company like you would like a sports team, right? So let me give you an example. When you're talking about a sports team, it's not just about how good the players are. Meaning, in Tesla's case, it would be the employees. It has to do with the owner, the management team, the coach, the front staff, the front end office, the back end office. Things need to work well, okay? And many times, you can tell how a company is going to do in the future based on the situation within. Like, for example, Nikola, right? Tesla's competitor. Think about once you saw their CEO leave, okay, which is recently, just before the GM announcement, which, by the way, again, was just to increase the stock price, right? Once you saw him leave, now you're starting to you're hearing all the shit that was going on in the company, right? Like, for example, he was apparently feminist. Apparently he was, sexually weird too, like, talking to employees in a sexual manner. There's all these things that are starting to come out. And of course, someone like that is not going to be able to run a company well. Doesn't matter who their employees are, right? Doesn't matter if your team has Cristiano Ronaldo, if the GM sucks, if the coach sucks, it just doesn't matter. You're not going to win. Tesla, okay? Elon Musk, just like I believe Jeff Bezos, is a game changer. Okay, Elon Musk has made his money, but Elon Musk doesn't live for that. Just like Jeff Bezos. Okay, who, as an example, lives for the money? Or who could I give you an example that would be the opposite? Evan Spiegel, CEO of Snapchat. Okay, his dream, good for him, by the way, nothing against him. His dream was to come up with a successful app, make a lot of money, and marry a model. And he did. Okay, he made a lot of money, built a successful app, and he married a model. But he's too busy driving around his Ferraris. He's too busy, going to runway shows. Whereas Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, they have a goal. They have a future. Meaning like they don't care about the money. It's not about that for them. The money is a tool to then do what they dream about. Okay, Tesla is not just going to be a car company. Tesla has bigger dreams. First off, it was to make electric cars popular. It has, right? What Tesla has done is it forced its competitors to start making electric cars. I remember when the CEO of Ferrari said, I will retire, and before we start making electric cars. And then a couple of years later, they made the LaFerrari, which is, essentially one of the top electric cars in the world, right? So he's pushed a change there. Now, talk about SpaceX and talk about all these things. Elon Musk is a different breed of human. Okay, he's a different breed. Even if he's a CEO that someone doesn't necessarily like or people don't necessarily like, they respect him. They want to work hard for him. They understand that his mission is greater than adding like filters on a Snapchat app. You know what I mean? So, what is Elon Musk's plan with Tesla? Well, first off, the next big thing is autonomous driving. They're going to make it that if you have a Tesla and you're not using it, so let's say you're at work or you're at home, your Tesla will autonomously be able to pick people up and drop them off and make you and earn you money. Okay, pretty cool. All right. Additionally, to that, they have a 4-year head start against everybody else. Okay, currently the price of their cars are priced at the price due to the price of their batteries. Batteries are very expensive, but power of scalability, right? So as the more batteries they produce, the cheaper the batteries become, right? So as Tesla continues to gain popularity, continues to sell, continues to make more batteries, continues to build factories to develop these batteries, the cost per unit will drop. So what do I see for Tesla? Well, first off, they make unbeatable cars. They have a 4 or 5 year head advantage compared to everybody else who's going through the learning curves right now. They're definitely leading the way in autonomous driving. And yeah, Waymo just announced yesterday that they're starting to do stuff in San Francisco in terms of autonomous driving. But what is the competitive advantage that Tesla has against Waymo? It is the data. Waymo doesn't have any cars with people on the road right now. The data that they're getting is simply from testing. The data that Tesla is getting is from actual millions of cars on the road. The data that's coming in is much more significant than what Waymo would have or anybody else. So they have a competitive advantage. Think about all the ups and downs that Tesla went through to get where they are today. Every short seller that has been saying Tesla go short, is because they believe that Tesla was not able to meet their production schedule. And yes, that was a key issue, okay? But what's happening now? They're meeting their production schedule, no problem. And he learned from his lesson. Okay, they learned from their lesson, and that's what other companies are going to need to do now. What do I mean by that? Well, when Tesla made the Model X, those SUV where the doors come up to the side and stuff, the manufacturing process of that took way too long. So what did they come out with? The Cybertruck. If you see the Cybertruck, the edges are clean. There's nothing to it. There's no upward doors. It's just, why? The manufacturing process is just quick and easy, and they can pump out cars, but at the same time, they came out with the style that's different and unique, and it's going to cause a lot of sales. So when we take it to Tesla's charts, okay, back to the charts, do I believe we're going to be looking for an entry to the downside? Absolutely not. But I believe that we're getting a squeeze, right? We have horizontal sell pressure. We have higher highs, so that's an uptrend. What we're waiting for is simple. Buy pressure needs to break sell pressure. Push, exhaustion, and we enter at exhaustion for a long-term hold. For me, I plan to hold Tesla for at least 2 to 3 years until I see that the competitors are starting to come out with something that's compromisable. Okay, now, do I think Tesla will slow down a little bit? In the future, yes. Not necessarily now. Okay, why? Because I do believe that Elon Musk will shift his focus towards SpaceX. I do believe that Elon Musk will eventually, once things start to get closer in terms of like launch for Mars or Falcon Heavy, okay, he's going to start to focus more on that. The Elon Musk that we know right now, which spends 3 days working as a CEO of Tesla and 3 days as a CEO of SpaceX, that necessarily won't be the case. And without Elon Musk, well, who knows, okay? So, in summary, autonomous driving, competitive advantage, just a good leader. Okay, even if employees don't like him as a person, they believe in him. Okay, just same with Bezos. They believe in guys that change the game. And then you got guys like Evan Spiegel who are just the boss. And if you don't care about the product, well, you don't care about him. Okay, so. Anyways, team, that's it for David Dotan Show episode 1. And come back, join me live tonight for trading and gaming. And for those of you who don't know what trading and gaming is, I like to play Call of Duty. And in between, when I die, I also start doing analysis. I go through company reports. I go through all that stuff. So this is what I'm going to be doing, I think, tonight at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So 8 or 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And I really appreciate all of you joining me for episode 1. Again, I will be able to draw on the screen. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to figure this out. Okay? Again, thank you so much. Keep rocking, team.